In the dark you hear a growl. Monsters in the night, unnatural appetite. A demon sent me here to take you to the afterlife. I feel something change inside of me. The inner human slowly dead in me. I feel it come alive. The darkness brings me light. There ain't no stopping it, and you will never hide from me. Pain of the change. What have I become? A creature of the night, ruled by moonlight. The pain of the change. This body's no longer mine. Feel wild and free, but caged at the same time. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. A hunger's arising inside of me. The beast is alive and break it free. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. Keep putting more chains on the beast. Hope it don't break loose. You better hope so too. I'm still inside. I'm still here. What have I done? When did this all start? I have become a monster in the dark. A hunger like no other. Running on instinct. Was this creature always inside of me? The pain of the change. What have I become? A creature of the night, ruled by moonlight. The pain of the change. This body's no longer mine. Feel wild and free, but caged at the same time. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. A hunger's arising inside of me. The beast is alive and break it free. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. Keep putting more chains on the beast. Hope it don't break loose. You better hope so too. Whoa, you better hope so too. You better hope so too.
Who's holding my hand in the darkness? Seeing ghosts down the hallway. There's a presence, bedroom shadows, cloaked and haunting me. Cold hand touching me. Fear overwhelming me. Tapping at my window, I can't bear to
starting a little bit earlier tonight. We usually start about 8 o'clock, but I had to do a bunch of stuff, and here we are. I was already in the studio anyway. I figured I might as well get started. What do we got going on here? Get your name in green, folks, for the giveaway. We are doing the giveaway tonight. It's $5. It's not much money, and it helps the show. You become a member, and our way of giving back is that you can win. You can win something. So, car alarm going off. Hopefully, it's not mine. But we'll wait and see. Give me 1 second, folks. All right, so it was my truck. That's nice. It's nice to know somebody's out there messing with it. See what happens. I may have to go out there and deal. I may have to go out there and deal with this. Oh man. All right, so I'll be right back. So Orem says, "Hey Wolf, how was the interview with LA? It was good. It was really good. We had a great time. I always get along real good with LA, and we have a chemistry. We get along. And I don't do a lot of interviews. I get asked, but I just don't. And it's nothing personal for those that ask. I have a couple people who are trying to get me right now, and then they've been very nice and cordial, and I'm going to do it for them. They're nice, and I don't think they have a very big channel. That doesn't matter to me. That part doesn't matter. I don't care how big or small your channel is. I go by people that are my friends, and I enjoyed the time that I had with LA coming on our show, and so when he asked me to do his show, it was a privilege. It was an honor. So I don't know when that's going to release. We recorded it earlier today, and I don't know when that's coming out. So I can't tell you. but thank you for asking, and thank you for the donation too. So like I said, if you want to donate, you'll win something at the end of the night. Possibly, it doesn't mean that you're going to, but you have a good chance. All you got to do is say, "Hey, I haven't won." And we might choose you. We're going to choose 2 people per night that we're on. So Orem says, I'll be editing it tomorrow. I'll probably post it right after. Cool. So then tomorrow, then the interview with LA will be available. Cool. He's a very busy guy like me. He's a very busy man. But we got into some stuff. We talked about some things. So go check that out. Check out that interview, folks, with LA Marzulli. Especially if you're an LA Marzulli fan. So letting some people get into the chat here right now. So I'm going to start this episode off. I got to tell you guys, something happened to me. Something weird happened to me. And this isn't a joke. I'm not playing around. I talked about it last night on another show that I was on. And that's Abe's show with Spiritual Encrypted Encounters. I'll go on his show pretty regularly because, it's overnight and he's a really good friend of mine, and I'll jump on with him and chop it up. And last night I told the story of what happened. This scared the crap out of me. I'm not going to lie. I'm not gonna lie. What's going on? Hey, Ron Murphy, Jason Bland, what's up? Greetings, guys. Two guys who have done a lot of work in this field. Ron, we need to get you back on the show. So, and Jason Bland. Jason's always a great friend, obviously. And Ron was I think you were at both of my conferences, Ron. Were you at this? Yeah, I think you were. You were at both of them. Ron Murphy really does really good work. Just looking at the chat here, waiting for some people to jump on, because, like I said, this is early. This is earlier than usual. Now, Ron, I got to apologize publicly because I said your name when I was talking about someone one day, and I said Ron Murphy, and then later on I was talking to another friend of ours, and they said, "You said Ron Murphy," and I said, "No, I didn't," and they said, "Yes, you did." And I was talking about another person whose name it sounds like On. Not going to say who it was, but I was perturbed with that individual, and I said something, but it wasn't Ron. It was the other one, and unfortunately, that's just what came out. So I was aggravated, and so it wasn't you. And I talked to this colleague of ours, and I thought, so I got you confused with someone. My bad. It happens, especially when you're getting turned around by people who just their life's goal is to make yours hard. But when you talk to some of these bigger YouTuber podcasters, you start to learn that it's happening to everybody, not just you. Everybody's getting attacked. Everybody's got these people that come after them because once you get to a certain point, they're just like they're just like lice. They don't want to leave you alone. But to me, that speaks that you're on the right path. Like, when you start getting closer to the truth, these people, they start coming after you. And so I've had people tell me, hey, you know what? It's going to happen because you're over the target. And that's been reaffirmed for me multiple times as of late. I've had a lot of people reach out to me, a lot of people with really good reputations, bigger channels, authors, different people expressing support because they see, with the advent of the PRT news, what these people are doing. And some of them are like, man, I had no idea it was going. I said, it's yeah. And it's 24/7 with these people. They don't stop. But the thing about it is, it doesn't matter. It's not going to work. It's not going to stop us. And they can scream and shout and jump around all day long. Right is right and wrong is wrong. You're not going to change the color of the sky. All right, that's it. Which is another interesting thing. Most people think the sky is blue. Did you know that most cultures, right, up until about 1,000 years ago, didn't have a name for the color blue?
I've heard that before.
Yeah. Which leads some scientists to believe that we could not see blue, like what is like right behind me on this side is green, this side's blue. But most people would see it as green because something within our eyes changed to where it adapted to have more colors on the spectrum. We at one time may have only been able to see green, reds, things like that. And we couldn't see purple or blue. Can you imagine a world without blue? Blue's beautiful.
Yeah.
But there's some animals that can only see in 3 or 4 different colors, and that's just those shades. And they think maybe we might have been that way. The problem is all we have to go on is what is talked about from the ancients, right? Because they've never really uncovered like too much blue like artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's weird. I've read several different articles about this now, and there's all these different theories, but we don't have a way to know whether or not our eyes, unless we can unearth someone whose eyes have not rotted away from 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, which is damn near impossible. Or if they do have their eyes intact, they're not going to be very much used to be able to dissect and look at. So that's really weird because there's no like in Plato's time, there was no blue. Nobody knew what the heck blue was. In Jesus's day, there was no blue. Nobody said blue. It was green. They've done these studies with these tribes, people from Africa, or not Africa, it was South America. And Everything okay? And they have all these different words for the color green, but no word for the color blue. And they think that these people maybe, and of course, nobody wants to say that word evolution because it sounds like, but adaptation, whatever you want to call it, they weren't exposed to the color blue. They don't know what that is. So the ocean is just a form of green, of green to them. That would be weird to think about. That is very weird to think about. Hold on one second. I don't think anybody was trying to break in. I think that we're talking about my vehicle. I think that somebody bumped into it or did something. It was broad daylight. Maybe they saw our leftovers from dinner. I'm not even joking. A homeless person will break in for, yeah. Homeless people are a different breed here. They're very brazen. They will absolutely. I one time had one reach into the passenger seat and try to grab my dinner. I'm not even joking. This wasn't even in a bad area. It was off of Metric. Yeah. That's Maddie, by the way. She's standing here being a pest.
Watching from the shadows.
Sit down and say hi. Anthony just ran out. So no, so we'll put you on for a second so you can say hi to everybody.
Hello.
There she is. Says hi. So we're sitting here. I'm at the stoplight, and this guy asked me. He leans into my vehicle, which is very rude anyway. I don't know the guy. And at the time, I don't know if he's homeless or what he is. But then I see a dog tied to the pole right there. And I said, "What's up, man?" And he asked me if I had a couple bucks. So I'm actually going to grab. I had like a couple dollars. This was years ago. And I was just going to grab them and give them to him. I just finished going to the car wash. And I said, "Hey, man, can you not lean on my truck like that, or whatever?" And he just, I don't know what I was driving. It wasn't a truck. It was an SUV. And I said, "Can you not lean on my car like that?" And he just says, "Well, I can just take this." And he just grabs my shortstop and takes off to walking with it. It's a brown bag,
Sure. Oh, no.
And so I had to pull over, and he gave it back, but I didn't want to touch it after that.
Right.
Yeah, because he just thought, I don't think he thought I was 6'4" and 350. You know what I mean? Like, I think he couldn't tell. I was just sitting down. And so when I got out and I have very broad shoulders, and so when I got out, and I was like, "What's up, dude?" And I was like, I'd put my gloves on, like some Kevlar gloves, and I was going towards him to take my food back. Then he was just like, "Oh, yo, bro, I'm sorry, yo." And he just like threw it. And I was like, "Well, I don't want it now, man. I don't want it now," and contemplated, being stupid. But then a cop pulled up on the corner, and so I waved at him. And the cop didn't even bother to look. He didn't care. He just went like this and just drove off. And so, but I thought better of it because it was kind of like a sign, like, okay, I shouldn't do this. And I said, "Just take the food, dude. Take the food." And I just jumped in the vehicle and took off. That really happened to me.
Yes,
it was right there.
I'm at a stoplight or an overpass. I always roll my windows up. I don't bother.
They're just ridiculous. And people are like, "Oh, you're disparaging them." I'm like, "Well, you don't live amongst Mad Max." So,
I mean, I took transit in Chicago, public transit in Chicago for years. So I've been around a lot of homeless. Y'all could do really have a different breed of homeless.
They're down here. They're aggressive as hell.
Yeah.
They're mean.
It's way worse down here.
Yeah, that's saying something that you're from Chicago and you're saying y'all's homeless people. I've had people come here from LA talking about, "What the heck? Y'all got all of our bad ones here." Like they ship them from LA and Chicago here to be evil or something, and you're like, "What in the heck is going on here?" Okay, so folks, we got 325 people here. So here's what happened to me. Speaking of evil, all right, I'm going to tell you this story. You're gonna trip, okay? And this is no make believe. This really happened to me. I don't know why I feel the need to say that, but I just want you to know, as we say in Spanish, no mentiras. This is real. I mean, it was ridiculous. I got a story. Now, this is talk about coincidences, and I don't believe in them. Neither does Anthony. Neither does Tony and Nelly, and we were all talking about it. And I don't know if you were privy to this, Maddie, or not. You're usually lurking around eavesdropping, so figured you probably did.
I mean, that's what us duendes do. I mean,
yeah, that's what Abe calls you, little duende. Because he asked about how much when you lifted weights with us. He said, "How much was she lifting?" I said, "Not much." Think of a Tinker Tot, the Tinker Tots. That's what she was
A
lifting.
toothpick with marshmallows at the end.
Exactly. And it was too heavy for her. And Nellie's like, why are you being mean to her? Why are you making her lift those heavy weights? And I'm like, it was literally donuts with toothpicks. Literally a pencil with two donuts.
I mean, that's a lot for me. Come on. I mean,
Oh,
I did my best, people.
And Tony's like, I remember I was there. So here's what happens. Like, so I had this woman who gave me a story for TikTok. It was for TikTok, was what it was going to be, because I went through and I found 30 different stories to start for an entire month. We're going to start it. We were thinking about doing like the not the grand opening, which would be like the beginning of April is going to be the very beginning where we actually do every day a TikTok story. And it's going to consist of like something between 5 and 10 minutes. Is that correct, Nellie? Nellie? The stories are going to be 5 to 10 minutes. You're the one that knows TikTok more than me.
Tic-tac-toe.
Maybe something like that.
We could do up to an hour.
But we're not doing that. That's too much. So TikTok is Nellie's. She's her brainchild. She says we need to get on the TikTok train or whatever. Let's go. Let's do it. All right. So I got together with stories that were small because me and Anthony and Tony were talking, and I can't take credit for this one. Tony actually says, you know what? We got to do something with those stories. Let's do, or not Tony, it was your brother, Adrian.
Uh-huh.
He said, let's do like 30 like scary stories or whatever, and just retell rapid fire. So then we said, I'm not really my style. And then Tony was like, well, you can do them on TikTok. And I said, well, that's true. And so, of course, me and Anthony were like, that'll never work. Y'all, but then we realized like everyone has no attention span. So that's
Yeah, pretty
TikTok's
much.
where it's at now.
TikTok is where it's at now. So we're going to do it. So what I did was I went and I found all these different stories, right? And one of them, this is the absolute truth. I'm not even joking. I found this story. This woman. Okay. First, I'll tell her story. We'll start with hers. Okay. And it's going to go into TikTok, whatever. So I'm not going to give it the whole whatever on here, but I'm going to tell you what happened. So this woman, and this is weird too. Okay. Even her name is bizarre compared to this other person, right? It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So her name is Melinda. Her real name is Melinda. Now she lived in Houston area, but she was up visiting her brother and her brother's wife, her sister-in-law. Let me get something to drink. I like those. You gotta tighten them like this.
Yeah.
Things like get like a mile long on it. Okay, so I got that story and I was reading it and I said, this is interesting. This woman, she goes to the should I say the name of the, probably shouldn't say
No.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go over the name of the gym. Y'all know what it is. But so what happened was she says, look, she goes, I don't know if this is a very long story, but this is a weird thing that happened to me. She went into the tanning bed, and it's not a bed. It's actually one of those where you stand up and you walk inside of it, right? Now, she said this happened to her up in Arlington. She was there visiting her brother and her brother's fiance, whatever. Now, what's interesting too about them is that he actually works for a sports franchise. Because I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. He works for, and there's several up in Dallas. I'm not going to say who he is, whatever, but I thought that was really cool. So I was just like, hey, you give me some autograph stuff. And I'm joking. I didn't even go there. I didn't even go there. But she did offer to talk to him. So I said, well, if he wants to send me some, that's cool. I like all the franchises up there, but whatever. So that's pretty cool. He actually works, but she says, look, I'm going to tell you a story. And she goes, and I didn't know you existed. She's like, I was looking through junk that people don't watch and you popped up. And I said, well, that's awesome. Let's do this now. And she said her sister-in-law does watch us. So shout out to your sister-in-law, Cheryl. Thank you for getting her on board the PRT train. Shout out to you. So here, and then there's another person I'd forgotten to shout out to the other day from Dutch Brothers, Riley. Thank you. You were great for helping us. And I totally forgot to shout out to you. Thank you so much. And then Spencer's from, what's his name? The ammo.
Is it
The Bullet Fact.
Bullet Farm.
Bullet Farm.
I think.
Bullet something. Bullet Shack.
Yeah,
Bullet
Shack.
Shack. Spencer, great guy. Okay, thank you. And I forgot to give you a shout out the other day, so I'm giving the shout out. So good, nice people, good people. So this is what happened. She says, I go into she's like, I do my workout, whatever normally, but she's like, that day was my off day. So I was in the area. She's like, I had worked out the day before and I was spending the week, an extended weekend, Thursday through Monday. I was going to be there with my family. And she's like, so I told them, hey, do you have this gym close by? And they said, yeah. So she's okay. So she went there with her sister-in-law to work out. And she said the next day we decided to go back and tan, right? So she goes back up there the next day. Her sister-in-law is working out, but that day was one of her off days, so she didn't work out. She's smart. She takes days rest. Some people don't do that. They don't know. And so she says she goes into the tanning booth or whatever, and the same one from the day before. So there was nothing different about it, right? And she said that she feels like she's being watched. She feels like there's something there in the room with her, right? Now you got to listen to this whole thing because it's gonna get weird, and it's gonna get weird before it gets better. Get weirder before it gets, and it's freaky. This because I started going over it and I was going like, this is weird as hell. Like, what are the odds? So she goes inside and she looks up to her right, and she sees this creature that can only be described as this like a gray, sort of like imp-like creature. And she says, but as she stares at it more, it starts to turn like more dark, like it's black. And the light was kind of maybe lightening it a little bit, because that's what she said. Maybe it was when I talked to her, it was this. And so she said that she's like, she freaks out. She falls backwards out of the booth, because who the hell wouldn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, you'll figure that out in a minute. So she falls backwards and she's like looking around, and she sees this thing kind of scurry on the other side of the booth. So it's like in the room with her. And the only way she could describe it is like this gargoyle imp-like thing. And she said it had an elongated nose kind of hanging almost over its lips. And it was down, like hunched down, and it had these really long nails on its fingers. And it was hopping around. And she said the head was either elongated or it had a cap on its head that was like hanging off of its head. Either way, it's creepy as hell. No, who the hell wants to see something like that? So then she grabs her stuff. She says, I was so afraid. She goes, I walked out into the hallway topless. I mean, she was like, I didn't even bother she goes, and I was screaming. And she goes, and the front desk person comes and they're like, whoa, what's going on? And she said it wasn't late, but it wasn't early either. She said it was like right around shift change. So there was like 3 front desk people that came, and they were all like, what's going on? And she hollered for her sister-in-law, who had just come back there, and she was getting ready to do the tanning session. Or no, maybe she was using the massage chair. Sorry. She was in a massage bed or massage chair. She jumps up. She wasn't tanning. She jumps up and she runs over there, and she's like hugging her and shaking. And so they all look and they don't see anything. There's nothing in there. Right? Now, since this happened, though, there's been an update. And I will tell you what that is. And I'm not going to say the name of the gym franchise, but I'm not going to go to this place because it would freak the hell out of anybody, right? So, hold on one second. Let me fix it. It would freak the hell out of anybody. Let me turn this down real quick and get this going. There it goes. So she gets her stuff, leaves, whatever, and she ends up like dreaming about it like a couple times after this happened. That's it. Nothing else to report for that particular encounter. All right. Now, she's had a couple other things happen since then, and I'll give that as an update. But first, let me tell you, that was one of the stories that I had gone over. This is going to get weird. Now, follow me. I was going over 3 different stories. So when I was working out the other night, and you were there, Maddie, and then, of course, Anthony, and we were all working out. Well, you were trying to, whatever. Bless your heart. But anyway, I was doing legs. Now, if you do legs and you go down with those squats, it really like it's intense, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking of this, and I started thinking about that particular story, because I'm like, when I'm done with this, I'm going to do the red light therapy. Now, red light therapy has been held as the newest, bestest, greatest thing. It's going to cure everything. from wrinkles on your face to pimples on your butt, right? It's supposed to make you a happy, nice person and change you from a communist into a good conservative person.
Supposed to fix all the problems.
Takes all the bad things and just takes it and makes it good, right? And I talked to one of my friends, shout out to Devin. She owns a bar, Main Street bar in Round Rock. She's just like, I don't know, I'm into everything healthy, and maybe it's a placebo effect, but it seems to be working for me. Because she was touting it as some great thing on her Instagram. So I'm like, well, you're saying it's all great and stuff. What does it do for you? And she gave me this list of stuff she looked up. Okay. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. So I decided to give it a try. I figured, why not? You know, my friends are using it. They think it's good. Another one of my friends, he's very superficial. I asked him, he was helping him. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to give this a whirl. Right. So this is my second time using it. So as soon as I was done, I hit the water, the whatever it's called, the red light therapy. And then I was going to go right from there into the water bed thing they have. Right. So I go in there and I'm doing the red light therapy thing, which is very akin to the booth is just it's the same thing as the tanning bed. Right. Mm-hmm. The difference is that these lights heal you. They don't destroy your skin and turn it into leather, right? So you don't turn into, you know, you've seen these people that look like they've been tanning, you know, they're out in the sun, like their skin turns to leather. My friend's mother was like that. And she died of skin cancer. I'm not even joking. But, you know, it turns your skin like leathery, whatever. So I'm not real big. I'm big on getting a little bit of sun, you know, for the vitamin D that you need. The D3 is very important, but you don't really want to be in those too much, right? And I didn't give Melinda this big speech about, hey, you know, you shouldn't do that, whatever. That's her body. She could do whatever. But for me, I'm not a big proponent of it. So the red light therapy, yeah, I went in there. And so the red light therapy, and Anthony, you know, these booths, right? They have the little, and you push the buttons and you can change the music, and then so you push this thing on the ground with your feet. Right. And that thing vibrates. It's like, you know, and it vibrates everything from your bottom of your feet to the top of your neck. Right. And so it supposedly helps with this energy transference or whatever. It's supposed to really make you whatever. So I read the little crap on there that says, let's say crap. I don't know. It says it's going to do all this amazing stuff. Right. So I'm like, okay, so let's go full tilt, you know? So the max on that thing is 12 minutes. You get 12 minutes of red light therapy. So I'm on there and it's shaking me and it's vibrating and it's like, so they have these handles that you hang on to. And I can only imagine, I guess it's really for when you need to get the under parts of you. So the red light will help you. Same thing with the tanning bed. Like it's supposed to help you like reach those hard to reach places so that you can get cancer there too. So anyway, you're holding on, right? And I'm just like, you know, and I look up at the deal and it's like 426, 427, 428. It's something like that. You know, it's 4 minutes, something. So then I look up for some reason. I don't have any reason. It's just, I had this weird feeling that something or someone was watching me. And before I got into the booth, I walked around it just to see if there was somebody in there because I felt weird. And then we'll break it down after I tell you the story, right? So then I get inside and I look up. I look up, and this was Saturday night, or Friday night. It was Friday night. And I see this thing, okay, and the ceilings are the same way that Melinda had described the ceilings at that other place that's very popular now, these big open air ceilings, right? And that's to keep it cooler in there so you don't get hot and the heat rises, right? So I look up and there's the way it's set up, it's like you could crawl over the wall and just like go into the next one and then crawl the wall and go to the next one. And then the ceiling is several feet up above that, right? So I look up and I see this thing. I see this. It was kind of like what she described, but not exactly. All right. And that's important too. It didn't have the nose wasn't hanging down over the face. It just looked like a dark elf looking creature. The ears were pointy. It had these little jaggedy looking teeth and it looked like an imp, like you would think of as an imp. right? So I see this thing and I look up and it wasn't like really quick. I didn't just go blink, blink, and it was gone. It was like I looked up at it and I was holding on to those grips and I was like, what in the heck? So it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about that long. I retraced my steps. It was between 4 and 6 seconds, maybe 5 seconds. You would estimate, right? Could have been a little bit longer, maybe a little bit shorter, but yeah, and it was right. It was right there looking at me. And then I looked down into the light, which I keep, the thing's bright. So you keep your eyes closed unless you're above Wolfsong. You're like, whoa, So I keep my eyes closed. And so I just kind of closed my eyes and I looked up again and it was gone. It was not there. And when I looked back down, and this is really important, when I looked back down at the timer, it said 9:47. Not the time of day because it was late at night. It was like 3:30 in the morning. But when I last looked, it was like I watched it go 4:26, 4:27, 4:20, whatever. It was 4:20 something, right? Now it was 9:47. So in the time it took me to look up and see whatever that little duende-looking creature was, and then looking back down, over 5 minutes and 20 seconds had elapsed. Now, what in the hell happened? I don't know. I cannot account for that. I keep going over and over my head, and I was like, I know damn well I didn't do anything. Like, I know I didn't go into some kind of trance. I don't believe that. I don't believe I fell into some kind of alternate, I just think that I looked up and it was gone. And then it was 5 minutes that elapsed. Two things with this, and then we're going to get into some other weird ass stuff here. And so I don't know what this is, okay, but I can tell you this, and excuse me for saying the A word or whatever. I'd have a habit of that. My generation throws that word on everything.
Yeah.
That's some nasty ass trash. I throw it out. You're like, what's the point of putting the word ass on everything? I don't know why we do it. We do it. It's weird. It's a weird thing. So, and so I was going through, so I was on Abe's show last night and I was talking about these low jacks up there in Oklahoma. If you don't know what a low jack is, that's a word that I created. And I'm not trying to make it catch on. I've been saying it for years. And Anthony, this. It means low IQ jackass.
Yeah.
So I just combined it into the word low jack, which basically is just you're low jack. You're a low IQ jackass. So feel free to use it. And I don't care if you give me credit for it. I indulge yourselves. Right?
I like it. Pretty catchy.
And like I said, you can claim it all you want. I don't give a damn. Trace it back to me. Don't trace it. It doesn't mean crap to me. It's just a word I've been saying for years. One guy said that. What does that mean? He says, you're a low IQ jackass. And then he took a swing at me. And I showed him why he was a low IQ jackass. I sat him down and I showed him Pythagorean theory and charts and graphs. And he learned something, right? Of course, he was unconscious the whole time. I said, you're not learning anything. I'm kidding, folks. It's a joke.
His subconscious absorbed it, though.
He did. He's now a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
He works for the Max Planck Institute. But no, so this is what happened. So I look up, I look down, and it's gone. Right? But, and this is the big but, like Pee-wee Herman says, everybody's got a big butt, right? So here is the but. All right. And I don't know what to make of this. I was thinking about this woman, Melinda's story, along with two other stories that I was thinking about, one from Kansas and another one from Arizona, about the first one being the first one. And Anthony went over all three of them with you about which one we should throw on TikTok first. Right. And so I was like, this is what I need to do. I need to figure out which one I want to put on there, and usually when I'm working out, I kind of try to stay away from all the, just clear my mind, but I was really preoccupied with that. And so maybe when I went into this deal, it was in my subconscious, and that's why I saw it. Although this is the weird thing. The thing I saw looked ashen gray. It wasn't black. It was dark. and that was it. I mean, it was like, I thought maybe I might have saw something when I got out of there, because you know how the weird colors and everything you were talking about, Anthony?
Yeah, it takes your eyes a minute to readjust.
Mm-hmm. So I thought maybe I saw something in the corner, but then I looked and I was like, and I'm not one to go falling backwards and, oh my gosh, I saw this. If it's there, it's there, and it's going to be what it is. I don't know. It's. Thank you for posting that, Sugar Britches. How you been? Hopefully good. But anyways, this is what I saw, and this is what happened, right? Here's the other thing that it could be. Now, but I know that there was really something there. To me, I believe there was something there. But I'm going to give you the other piece, right? The earlier in the day, it was either Friday or Thursday, I was looking at this thing called the Oldery Families Bestiary. Now, there's a guy who's got a channel. I can't remember his name again. Calvin Avalos or Kevin Avalos.
His first name was Alex.
Alex Cavalos, something like that. Anyways, he's got a channel. It's not a real big YouTube channel. He's real big on TikTok. But I ordered the book on the suggestion of Monica Rollins, because I had messaged her because she's always talking about all this, because she's one of those people in this field that does a lot of research on these individual, like she goes into the lore, right? Mm-hmm. The mythology, right? And she had the audacity to try to correct me one time about what is it? The Tulpa and the egregore.
Mm-hmm.
You think you're smart. Just like when Tex put me in my place. Boy, that really hurt my feelings. I tell you what, we're not friends no more. We're done, bub. Through, huh? Whatever. I love Tex. He's a great guy. Check it out. Good guy. So no, seriously, but that didn't happen either. Okay, I'll take that for 500, Alex. Things that never happened. But no, she did. She said that the egregore was something that's created with like a singular, right? Uh-huh. And the tulpa is created with a group, but I disagree. I think that this is two words for the same thing. Could happen either way, but it really doesn't matter what you call it. It just is what it is, right? They are what they are. So that being said, this thing that I saw, it made me think. I was looking at that bestiary, and one of the creatures it didn't really stick out any more than the others. It was just in there, and it was the Imps. And the guy kind of goes into an explanation about what the difference between an imp and one of the fae. There was one in particular, I forgot what it's called. It's not just a fae; it's a type of one. Mm. It's a specific type. Oh, a hobgoblin. It was a hobgoblin fae, and it's a weird, creepy looking little thing. But then there were these imps, and they said, well, you can make a deal with these little hobgoblin dudes, and it always goes south. They'll trade you something, and then they always somehow get offended by something. Very much like people in this community. Right? Mm-hmm. You do something for them, and then they're like, well, no, I hate you. Yeah. And then they for no reason, they start attacking, and then that becomes you retaliate. Then that becomes the reason, right? I'm getting revenge on you because you retaliated on something that I did to you. And then it becomes revenge for eternity. That's what hobgoblins do. I thought it was interesting, that is, he was spot on with most of these creatures, the ones I didn't watch the whole thing, but part of what he was saying. But yeah, that's definitely. So there were imps in that bestiary. And now these things are supposedly underneath St. George's Keep, underneath the Vatican in St. George's Keep, right? So a group of guys called the Sons of Man, who were originally led by St. George, right, would wrangle these things in their physical form, but they can't be taken just by sword and spear and things like that unless they are completely on this plane of existence. And if they can get to a portal, they'll go through it. And then they're back to their state of spirituality, just as you would be. So they can become like as physical as you and I, but then they're able to sidestep back into the spirit form, which is our true form, something that we're not really able to do. So we don't have that ability until we leave our body, and leaving our body is something we can't do it well. Right? Or is it? Some people claim they can. Some people can go into a meditative state and they can literally leave their body. I got weird stories like that too. Speaking of the gym, I have one from a gym. Right? But that's another thing. So these people, or these beings, whatever you want to call them, these imps, whatever, I had seen them either the day before or earlier that day. I don't remember. So that could have contributed to what me seeing that. But then again, you had the vibration going, you had that light going. And like Abe gave a very good explanation. He says that he's got a form of epilepsy. It's called absence seizures. And he used to take a certain medication for it that my friend did. And he calls them seizures, but it's not the same thing. It's really absence seizures, I think, is what he has, because he'll zone out. Like that's what happened to, and he said it on his show last night. And that's what had happened to my friend. He would just zone out. And then I knew when I was the first one of all of us who noticed it too. If you ever talk to any of my friends from the old days, we were all a very tight-knit group. And I would be talking and he would do this. And his head would stop kind of agreement. He would just go. And when he would not, like you would talk and he would not blink and just staring. You could get up and walk across the room. His eyes aren't going to follow you. They're just going to keep, And so one day he had these pinball machines. He had this Terminator pinball machine. I'll never forget. I used to go there. I love to play pinball. And I went over there and I said, hey, man, I was like, I'm going to come by. Oh, yeah, cool, whatever. And so he's over there. And I'm not even going to sugarcoat it or lie to you. He was rolling a joint. Okay. And because he was self-medicating. Like he was smoking all the time. And I think it's because he was trying to self-medicate. Because he said, if I don't smoke, I don't feel normal. And I didn't know what his problem was, right? So I was over there playing pinball and I'm talking to him. And then I looked down and I saw him like holding it in his paper. He's like in suspended animation like this. And I'm like, oh crap. So I told Squid, my friend, and my brother, Diablo, I said, I think, I'm not going to say his name on here. It wouldn't be polite. And I said, I think he's got some kind of issue. So I went and I looked it up. Now, we had computers back then, even though they weren't like they are now. They're these big clunky screens and they're not flat. It's just, but I looked it up and I was like, I told him, I said, I think you have absences. He says, yes, I actually do. He had never told me he'd been diagnosed. You're supposed to take Dilantin, which is Dilantin, whatever. But he said he didn't like it because he couldn't feel normal like us. He didn't like it. Right? So, long explanation, but information there. So Abe tells me last night on his show, he's like, he goes, maybe you zoned out and that's how you lost that time. So that would mean that I had some sort of, I guess, absence seizure or something. Which I don't believe happened. I don't believe that. My mind is very sharp and I don't really have those kinds of issues, right? But I know that I looked up and I looked back down and 5 minutes were gone. So that I do know. What caused it and what made me see that creature? Now, if you're thinking of it in terms of like a vibration, maybe I was on a certain wavelength, and because I was studying these things and because I had, taken Melinda's story, I saw it. When you see these things, it's very possible that they're there. They're always kind of around, but you're on a certain wavelength and you see them, you catch them. Thank you for that donation, Evan. We really appreciate that. Can't tell you how much we appreciate it right now. But you're sitting there and you're going like, what in the hell? What just happened? Okay, so as weird as all that is, let's take it a step further, okay? I'm going to get weirder here. So there's another person. When this happened, I went back to the files, to the folders, and we have all these different people who've told us they've seen imps. Imps, right? Just the word, you know. But it could be a duende, whatever, blah 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 blah. But if in the title it says on there, I saw an imp or whatever, so there was like 20 of them in there. But then when I started looking up goblin, elf, duende, there are about 1 million of them in there. So I found this one. Get this. This is another weird thing, right? So her name, this is weird, right? Melindra, right?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like Melinda.
Yeah.
Now this woman is not the same person. Not the same person at all. Do you tell the audience where she's or where her parents, who are parents? Like, you don't remember what we talked about?
No.
Oh, okay, all right.
Not specifically, no.
Okay, well, we were just talking about it where we came. Her
Talking about stuff.
mother is Berber.
Oh yeah, her mother was Berber and her dad was French.
Yeah, her dad was in the French Foreign
Yeah, well,
Legion.
he wasn't French, but he was in the French Foreign Legion. Yeah,
He was
he was Dutch.
Dutch, yep, he was Dutch. Yes, so her dad is from the Netherlands, and he was in the French Foreign Legion, and he was stationed in Algeria. Now it gets weirder, folks. Listen to this. You can't make this. I'm telling you, can't make this up. Not only was he stationed in Algeria, that's where he met her mother. Her mother was Berber. Saturday night, who did we meet when we went to? I'm not gonna say the name of the restaurant because I don't know people following us around or whatever. But where we went to the restaurant.
Yeah, we met 3 guys who were Berber.
Where were they from?
And they were from Algeria.
Algeria. And how did I know that they were from there?
Because of the language they were speaking?
Because the language they were speaking. I was sitting in my truck with Anthony. We were waiting for the food. And what happened, Anthony?
You heard them talk about investing.
Mm-hmm.
And you gave them some advice, and that was kind of the conversation starter.
Mm-hmm. And so, shout out to those guys. I don't remember all 3 of them's name. I know 2 of them had the same name, was Yassine. I don't remember the other guy's name, unfortunately. But they were very friendly guys, and they were all about Anthony's age. And I heard them speaking. Now, I don't speak. Now, Berber is not one of those where, like, you speak Berber, you don't. There's different types of dialects of Berber. And there's different types of Berber people, right? Carthaginian is they claim the descendancy of Carthaginians. They're Bedouins, in particular. The North African Bedouins, it's a little different. Like there's Kurdish Berbers too, right? That are Shawani. They call them Shawani and Shatani or Shotani, something like that. And so they have these different kinds. But these guys, I heard them speaking, and I told Anthony, didn't I? I looked at you, and I said, these guys are, Berber.
Yeah.
And so when I get out of the truck, Anthony was there for a minute. He went to get the food. And I started talking to these guys, and I told them about investing. They were talking about CTCMS, which is like this Taiwanese company, which is now working with Applied Materials. If you have that stock, hang on to it, or double down, or wait to buy it on the dip. It's going to go back up if you can afford it. NVIDIA, if you're hanging on to NVIDIA, hang on to it a little longer. That's my suggestion to you. I'm not trying to get off into economics, but that's just my suggestion to you, and that's what I told those guys. And then if you have XRP, hang on to it. It might be a bumpy ride, but let me give you a real quick tip, real quick, right? If Japan does something, especially if Tokyo says we're going to do this, Seoul and Taiwan, there's like this triangle, the Pacific Rim triangle. They kind of do it. China will copy. Remember that. Anyways, back to the story. That's free advice. If you take it what you want, I told those guys, look, and they said, how did you know what we were saying? I said, you guys you're Berber. And they were like, oh my gosh, like, nobody in this country knows who we are. And if they do that, they're gonna think we're Arab. And I said, no, and I said, where are you from? And I even called it. I said, Algeria, didn't I? I said, there's Moroccan, there's Algerian, there's Tunisian. I said, but you guys are Algerian Berber. I called it right on the nail on the head. And Almara is the name of the restaurant. It's a good place. I don't want people going around stalking us, but it's right there off 620. We went in there to get food. You want to sit down? Yes, I do. Take her with you. Get her out of my office, please. She's disturbing me with her duende looks.
I don't know. I think Wolf wants me to leave, but I'm not sure, guys.
She's like a changeling. Take a look at her, folks. There you go. Changeling. Get her out of here.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye. I'm kidding. You know what I want, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, anyways, tell me that is weird in of itself. The whole thing is weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So then the first story that pops up on the computer is Melindra's story.
Synchronicities everywhere.
It is synchronicity after synchronicity after synchronicity. I told Anthony, I said, I think I need to tell this story.
It was like one synchronicity fed into the next.
So my apologies to Zena. And I wasn't saying her name right. It's not Zena. It's Zena.
Oh, okay.
Zena, she didn't angrily message me, but she was just like, yeah, my name is not Z-E. Hey, she's like, my neighbors never could say it correctly. Right. But she goes, it's Zana, like,
Yeah.
But anyway, Z-A-E.
I had this thought too, like maybe that's not how you actually say your name, because there's
This lady keeps saying it.
well, you talk to her. I mean, but like
no, I didn't. I just read the story at that time.
There's only 2 instances where I've heard of anyone having that name, and they were both fictional characters.
Yeah, it wasn't Zena.
Yeah.
Well, you could have told me that later and said, hey, maybe that's not her name.
Well, I mean, like it can be her name. I don't know.
Well, because she did say this though. Her parents were hippies, like, so her neighbor was correct. Her neighbor that had the whatever it's called, the bear man. What do we call that thing? I don't even know what to call it. Would you call it a werebear? That sounds weird.
Yeah, it sounds weird. I don't know. I would just stick with bear man.
Yeah. Whatever. Anyway, and her name is Aaliyah. At least I got that right. I was thinking she's going to be like, my name is Layla. What the hell's wrong with you? Can't get nobody. I smack you with your weird talk. No, sorry, Zaina. Okay, I'm not even saying that correctly. It's Zaina, like Zaina. Like it's a Russian type name, whatever. But it's not Russian. It's and believe this, it's a Tartar. Like the root is a Tartar name. I know there's this big thing about the Tartarian Empire. There was no Tartarian Empire. I don't believe that. Now, I do believe that there was something that was here before that happened. And I do believe that there was a mud flood, but not the way everybody, I could break that down for you. Yes, that did. I do believe that happened. I do. I don't believe it happened as early back as they say it did, but it did happen. But it has nothing, I'm telling you, nothing to do with the Tartars. The Tartars were a race of people who have descendants now in northern and in far eastern Russia. But the Tartars were destroyed by my dad's people. The final death knell came from the Cossacks because the Cossacks and them had been at war. The Tartars were Islamic, predominantly Islamic. So there wasn't any Tartarian Empire the way that they say there was. Get rid of this overtext green game, whatever the hell.
Yeah.
What is this? Third Royal Guard. Why are you posting this? So, anyways, ban that person. The Tartars were a tribe. They were tribal people. Now, they might have been the descendants of an empire that existed at one time. And so the Tartars, I could give you a whole history of who they were, right? We could go back and we could talk about the Cossacks, the Tartars, Tamerlane, and the invasions, and the Mongols, and everybody else, the Khans, the Huns, going way back, But this is not this is not the Tartarian Empire. But anyway, that's what her heritage is partially Tartar. So Zaina. So I'm sorry I was calling you Zena. And I apologize. That's not your name. Okay. But in my defense, the people that were telling me didn't correct me. Okay. And so I didn't know. So I apologize. But I will be telling your story on Wednesday. We'll talk about her story on Wednesday. That is up in Saskatchewan, Canada, a very desolate, remote place where she's from. But anyways, back to this. So I felt like I had to tell this story tonight because it was just too many synchronicities and what happened to me. And I thought, you know what? This is too weird. This has to be, we have to talk about this. Thank you for that membership, folks. Get your name in green so you can enter into the contest, folks. And thank you to those who have been kind enough to donate too. So we have this weird synchronicities that are going on. This is what happened to Melindra. Not Melinda. Melinda's the one that saw the imp. There was no dog man or werewolf or anything like that involved. This is Melindra's story. She lived in France for a while. She dated a guy he was from France. He was a Frenchman. And his family had lived in southern France for a long, long time. And they had a place in Normandy, which was like their little spot where they would go by the beach or whatever. And she said that they were literally walking down the beach of Normandy. Right there, in that area where the Allied invasion took place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she said, and she's got a lot of weird stuff that's happened to her too, but I'm not going to get into all of the weird stuff that happened to her. And she had what she felt like was a time slip. This is one of the most profound things that happened to her. And after this particular incident, it awakened something in her. And then she began to have memories of her childhood. When she was walking down the beach, she saw these two, what could only be described as German soldiers. And one of them was just smoking. He had a long gray coat and he had his weapon, and he turned around and started like asking her questions like, who are you? What are you doing here? And then there was another one further down, and he began to run up the beach. And this is, this must have been before the landing, obviously. And they were like questioning her and her boyfriend. Her boyfriend, get this is the weirdest thing, right? He's kind of sitting there. He's staring, looking at these guys, blank stare on his face. There's nothing going on. Then he doesn't remember the incident or the altercation at all. Kind of like an absence seizure, right? Now, this is not Melinda. This is not the person that I was going to tell the story on TikTok, which I'm still going to tell on TikTok. But this is a woman named Melindra, right? And like I said, her mother is a Berber woman, and her dad was Dutch, and he was in the French Foreign Legion, from the Netherlands. And he got in trouble, and he had debts to pay, so he went and he was stationed there in Algeria. And then he met her mother, and they had a romance, and voila, she was born. And they're still together to this day. They live in the Netherlands, which is, a lot of people think, and then let me give you a quick thing here. A lot of people think that the Netherlands is the same as Holland. Holland is in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And Amsterdam is in Holland, which is in the Netherlands. It's like a state. It's like a city, a state, a country. A lot of people think those are three different things. They are, but they're all still the same, right? So that being said, she said, look, my parents are still there, whatever. And her mother's dad was like a tribal, like a medicine man who did a lot of weird stuff. He healed people. Her mother did too, but not on the level that her dad did. Her dad taught her, her mother's dad. So her grandmother did too, but not on the level that her grandfather did, right? The grandfather was like this medicine guy. He could heal people, help people. The Berbers are very much like a tribal, people. They're still, they still kind of exist along tribal lines. They know their history, especially the Bedouin ones. So that's the difference. There's a difference between the ones that live in the city and the ones that roam around. They're still sort of primitive. They stick to the old ways. That was her family. They were very much like that. And they had a very small village and her grandfather's brother ran a little bar, like a little watering hole. That's how her dad met her mother. All right. So that's the story. So when I talked to Melinda, she says, look, she's like, I've always had weird stuff happen to me. I didn't remember it. She's like, it was like blocked out of my mind. When she's talking to these two German soldiers and they're asking her who she is, They're looking them up and down, like, who are you? What is this? Why are you here? Like, she can't communicate with them. And she's speaking, what French she could, right? And these guys, even though they're stationed in Normandy, right, they're not fully fluent in French. So one of them takes a whistle and starts blowing it and calls another guy. He comes running down the hill, and he comes up, and he's like subordinate to one of these guys, and he says, "Hell, whatever, blah blah blah," and the guy tells him something in German very quickly, and then he starts speaking French. Parlez-vous français? So she starts telling him, she's like, "Look, I don't know who you are." She sees the bunkers, and she's like, "What in the hell?" She sees the wire. She sees these, what they call dragon's teeth that stop and she's just like, "What in the hell is all of this?" These spikes that they had that they would use, and she's just like, "This is weird." She goes, "I didn't see this when we were walking." She goes, "I was just looking down at my feet. I look up, and now I'm in World War II Germany, or occupied Normandy with Germans. What is this?" And then people don't realize this either. This is one of the reasons why I knew that I believed she wasn't lying, and she wasn't really a listener of the show. Okay. Her boyfriend, who was her boyfriend at the time, they're engaged now, it's her fiance, was just standing there with this blank look on his face, not taking in what was happening. Not the concertina wire, I know that, but there's like these spikes, I forgot what they're called, but they stop amphibious vehicles from landing, but they were all over the place. She was describing these, right?
Yeah, like tank busters or something.
Tank busters, yeah. But not tank busters. These are for the amphibious vehicles. Mm-hmm. The tank busters are those teeth. So then she's talking, and there was this other guy that comes up in a distinctly French uniform, and he begins talking, and he's got like a cigarette, and he's sharing it with the Germans or whatever. And she says he looks different and he's dressed different. She described his uniform, and I was like, he's French. And she was like, "Yeah, but I thought that the French and the Germans were enemies." I said, "That's the thing. The Vichy regime, which was almost half of France, not only did they supposedly throw their guns down and surrender, that's not a true story. That is not what happened. 40,000 French died on the beaches of Normandy to cover the British retreat. The British left all of their armor on the beach. It was 435,000 pounds of armor, it's estimated. And 42,000 Frenchmen lost their lives fighting the Germans. And just to get laughed at and said that, oh, they just threw their guns down and gave up. No, the Nazis, the Germans, they were brutal. They kicked their ass. And the British ran. And if you're British or UK, I love you. I'm not trying to be mean or ugly, whatever, but like Churchill had said, wars are not won by evacuations. And it was one of the most amazing feats in history. The British had so many boats that they were able to come and rescue all of these people, because every boat in the British Isles, with the exception of Ireland, they're like, "We're not going to go help you. We hope your arse drowns." But everybody else was like, we'll come and help you. We'll save your ass. So they came and they brought boats, and there were civilians. And get this. This is true. People don't take this into account. The Germans, they were using the Luftwaffe, right, to finish them off when this retreat happened, right, in France. Right. This isn't in Normandy. This was in oh my gosh. I've talked about it before. What is the name of the place where there was a whole movie about it? There's a
Dunkirk.
Dunkirk. Gosh, dang it! Thank you. So Dunkirk, and this is important just to show a lot of French people died defending what was theirs, right? But there was a regime called the Vichy regime that was fascist, and they were very friendly with Spain and Germany and Italy, which were all fascist, and so they took over, and the Germans said, "Well, just govern it, take it over. We don't have to deal with it. We don't have to." They didn't even have to garrison it. They were just like, "Do it yourself." So they donated like a few thousand French troops to go up and help man Normandy. There were also Czech troops there too. Some of them wore the standard Czech uniform, and some of them wore German uniforms. But they were and I know history's now, after the war's over, they're like, "Oh, we were forced into." Bullshit. Okay. They joined. Okay. Because they thought that the Germans were going to win. I mean, look at Argentina. They were hedging their bets. The Germans are going to win. We're going to be. And so these people, they went along with it. So when she started describing the French soldier, I said, whoa, she would not know that. Now, it's one thing to lie to somebody and go, well, I had this weird vision. I saw some Nazis and they were asking questions, blah, blah, blah. She even talked about the little French flag on their helmet, which was that division. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The SS Charlemagne actually would wear it. Well, not just them, but the Wehrmacht had one too. That French insignia signified that was where the region that they were fighting in. In the Ardennes, you would see sometimes footage. You'll see that little French red, white, and blue, those stripes, mm-hmm. whatever. And they're on the German helmet. Some of those guys are actually French. I'm not even joking. And that denotes what division that they were in and who they were fighting for. So anyway, Hitler, in all of his stupidity, he sends Goering's fat ass, go and destroy them with the Luftwaffe. Yes, mein Führer, I can do this. Bullshit. He didn't. You should have let Guderian go in and finish him off with the Panzers, but you didn't, stupid asses. That's why bureaucrats, fat asses that don't know anything about war, shouldn't be doing war. Get out of the damn way. You had the best officer cadre in the world, and what did you do? You just wrecked it. You ran it into the damn ground. Retard. Off jackass. So anyway, you let this idiot go and try to knock him out. But the Luftwaffe, here's the thing. And British people, the ones that are honest about it, I've heard them talk about this. They wouldn't bomb the civilian boats. So it wasn't coming from the high command. It was the German pilots having a conscience, and they weren't bombing the civilian boats. They were letting them go. That's why they escaped. It's not because of some miracle or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, go and save the queen. Yeah. They love our bad teeth. No, it's not. No, it was because the Germans didn't bomb the civilian boats. They were just like, these are civilians. I'm not going to drop a bomb on them. They look, I mean, there's a dog with them and they have a cat. I'm not going to. That would have ended it right there. If they would have just shot up and bombed the hell out of it, that would have been the end of it. But they didn't do that. These flock wolves and these other, Jukas, whatever, Stukas, whatever, when they were dive bombing, they should have bombed those civilian vehicles because they were full of military personnel. Anyways, back to the story. This woman, she knew that there was a French soldier there, and she described the helmet. Their helmets look really cool. If you go back in history and look at the French uniforms, dude, they always looked freaking grade A. I'm not lying, dude. Those helmets they had back in the day, mm-hmm. I always thought they had the coolest helmets. I always thought Spain looked kind of weird. Yeah. The English looked really goofy. But they were both badasses back in the day too. But the French, dude, the little capes they had, the blue, dude, they look badass. They looked like a cross between we're starting to learn about guns, but we're still wearing knight uniform stuff. It was cool. They looked really cool. So their French uniforms, still up until World War II, the helmets looked really cool too. The French and the German helmets, I think, were really badass. But if you look at what this woman was saying, one of them was a Frenchman. He came running up and he started talking, and she was speaking perfect French with him. And she says, "Where am I? Who?" And he told her, he's like, this is Normandy. So this had to have been right before the invasion. It was like 1942 or 41, 42, whatever it was, 43. But anyway, it was right before that. And she goes, it was right before the invasion. And I just was listening to her tell this story. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So I said, you saw this? She's like, I saw this. She goes, and then they just told me to go up the hill with them. She's like, we start walking up the hill. I'm leading my boyfriend up the hill. She goes, and I'll turn around and look back. She goes, and I hear these birds crying out, whatever. I look around and there's nothing. She's like, there's nothing there. It's just sand. She's like, the French soldiers, the German soldiers, they're gone. Nothing is there that shows it, that there's anything there. It's nothing. Now they have these signs and, it's like it shows you that this, mm-hmm. But it was back to the current year. And it was for all intents and purposes, it was a quiet day. She said she saw a few people down the other side of the beach, but not many. And she was just like, what did I just see? What just happened to me? So she calls her grandfather, who was a medicine man, and he at that time he wasn't living in Algeria anymore. He had moved, and he was actually living in Belgium. So she calls him, and he's in Belgium, which one country over. It's like, France, Belgium, and Germany, and the Netherlands, the Low Countries. And she says, dude, I just had the weirdest thing. And she tells he tells her, he says, you saw the past. And she says, really? And he goes, and it might not have been our past.
Mm-hmm.
He says, this could have been a past of a present of a future. It never happened. Right? What was the year of the invasion? I want to say 1943. Or no, I don't think it was 40. Yeah, was it 43?
Let me see.
Look it up just to make sure I'm not off on my years here. But anyway, the time that when they told her whatever it was, I just remember her saying it was right before Normandy happened, like the
44.
44. So 1944. Yeah, because the war ended in 45 for us. So it was 1944, and she said it was right before the invasion. So this must have been like, days before this happened. So these soldiers, maybe, think about this. What if this happened to them and they didn't even have time to go and like chronicle it or anything? And then the next, 2 days later or whatever, they get, blown to smithereens by these million people that show up on the beach. Of course, the garrison there was so small because they were expecting the strike to be somewhere else because the British had tricked the Germans. The British won through their intelligence. It was, and I'm talking about smarts. I'm talking about their trickery. The deception that they used was just off the charts. It was crazy. They tricked the Nazis many, many times. I don't think that really speaks well to you to say that we use deception. We lied our asses off and we beat them. Yay. And we used sorcery, which they did. They really did. I'm not even joking. Aleister Crowley. I mean, like his memoirs, everybody has said that they burned them, that the SAS, because they were using black magic, Of course, everybody was saying the Germans were doing it too, and the Soviets, they wouldn't lie. And of course, the Soviets said, we did not do any of these bad things. We drank a lot of vodka, and there was some SA involved. Other than that, nothing bad, nothing comrade. We were the most goodest of all the goods. Nobody ever do nothing bad. So there was a lot of, whatever, after the war's over, it's like, yeah, they did all the bad stuff. We did all the good stuff. None of this we did. It was all them. They did the bad. They were the very bads. And so, of course, because you won the war, so you get the right to lie your ass off and say that you were the good guys. And everybody gets to flip sides like the Finnish and the French and go, we did not want to be on their side. We were just there for a few years hanging out. Please don't look into anything else. And the French, an entire half of their country was involved. And that doesn't look good either. Operation Torch, more French soldiers and the Moroccan troops that were underneath their guidance inflicted more casualties on the Americans than the Germans. In fact, I think the ratio was like 24-1. So for every one German that killed an American, you had 24 that were being killed by the French or the Moroccans. That's a number that doesn't. How do you like? You're supposed, and the French are like, well, in our defense, we do make really good food. And you're like, yeah, you killed a lot of us. Things happen, whatever. Ratatouille, whatever, Okay. We'll let you slide. And, a lot of things got mixed up. Things happen, whatever. And, some people think cucumbers taste better pickled. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, this whole thing, she says this happened. So her grandfather says, you have an eye. You have the eye. Makes sense. Her grandfather gave her a necklace that looks just like the eye of protection. I know. I've seen it. One of my friends, he's Kurdish. He wears it. He has one. And I told her, I said, okay, so you have one of these. She goes, yeah, and it was made of silver. She goes, but I never wore it. Now, this is another thing. Her grandfather decides to tell her, this is Melindra, right? He says, be careful. He says, be careful, Melinda, because, and I'm going to try and do his accent, make it sound more spooky. I don't even know if this is how he talks. This is just me, right? Dramatization. Be careful, Melinda. When you go to sleep at night, don't let the bed bugs bite. And then she was like, is that it? And she just hung up, and that was the end of the story. I thought I was as baffled as you. I'm as baffled as you. I don't even know why she told me this crap. I'm like, goodbye. No. He says, look, be careful, Melinda. He says, look. He says, this eye is very powerful. And he goes, now you're going to go to sleep tonight. He goes, and you make a choice. She's like, you either take the coin or you don't. So she's sitting here going like, what does this mean? This is how she talks. She literally, she goes, I'm like, what does this mean? I take a coin. What is this coin? I don't know. She's like, he sounds like a gypsy. You know? And she's like, and I don't know what this is. And she says, so she goes to sleep and she has this dream like clockwork. Her boyfriend, she was really pissed off at it. He was sleeping on the couch because he had a big fight because she told him a story. And he goes, that never happened. And she's like, no, you turned into a robot. She's like, I had German soldiers around me and French soldiers, and you're a robot. And he's like, well, I don't remember that. Well, no, because you became C-3PO, whatever. Somebody turned you off. So he got mad. They had a big argument. He's up on the couch. And she's like, I'm not going to lie. She goes, I felt really uncomfortable. I went to sleep that night with my grandfather, who I love him to death. She's like, but he starts talking like that. He gets kind of spooky, right? Not her words, my words. She didn't say spooky. She just said it gets kind of weird. But I'm gathering that it was kind of a spooky conversation. So here's what happened. She goes to sleep, and in the middle of the night, she gets a tug on her. Oh, this is so creepy. She gets a tug on her blanket. She opens her eyes. She's like, I'm a side sleeper. I asked her, so were you sleeping on your side? She says, yeah, I'd open my eyes. And she's like, and I'm staring into the face of this goblin. And he's got his teeth bared. He's like, got his little hand out. And in the other hand, he's like this. And she's like, what is that? And he opens his hand. And she looks down and she sees just this coin. And on the top of it was like an eagle. And he flips it over. On the other side, it's a lion. There's a lion and an eagle. And that's all it is. And she's like looking at it and she's thinking, holy crap. She's like, am I awake? Am I asleep? Am I dreaming? What is this? She doesn't know. And then her instinct was to touch it. But then again, she was trying to pull away. And he did like this, like, come on. Like, not in a way like he wanted her to, he wasn't beckoning her to go with him. It was like, make a choice. So she felt like she should pick the coin up. So she did. She reaches on his hand and she takes it, and immediately he goes like this and he snarls at her, and then he backs away into the shadows, walking backwards, and he's gone. The next morning, because that was in the middle of the night, right? She wakes up. She wakes up from this and she goes, I thought, okay, what a dream. This must have been a dream. There's no way that this really happened. She's like, I get up. She goes, I look around. She's like, my boyfriend, he's not in the bed with me. She goes, and I was freaked out. And so she goes, I get up and I go into the bathroom. She's like, and I brush my teeth, do my morning, whatever. She's like, and I open the drawer and there is this coin right there. As I'm looking for a hairbread, she says, I found this coin. And I pick it up and I'm like, what is this? It looks really old. It wasn't shiny like it was. And she goes, oh my gosh. She goes, I remembered the dream. She's like, I remember everything that had happened to me since I was a little child. She's like, I remember these imp-like creatures. Remember we were talking about them, right? And she says, I remember them following me around when I was a child, playing in the garden. And I would look back and I would see them and I would be like, why are they there? What are they doing? What do they want? And they'd be like lurking around. And her grandfather would come out and tell them, be gone, and start talking to them and reading passages from the thing is spinning there. And she said he would come out and he would shoo them away. And she says, when it gets really hot, she's like out there in the summertime, sometimes at night, they would sleep outside because it was so hot. And it wouldn't cool off until like 1, 2 in the morning. She's like, and then they would go back inside And then they would build their houses where there was like a breeze, but you couldn't because sometimes there were sandstorms and things, and it was the desert, right? But there's some places that have enough water where they have big cities and things like that. And she said that ours, we were out in between a big town and a little bitty village. We were kind of out in the country. And she said, we had water, we had well, and we were able to grow, a few things. And she says, I spent time near the well. And she goes, I remember as a child, my grandfather giving me a coin and told me to throw it in the well. Now, you wouldn't throw something dirty into your drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
But she did because this coin was actually made of silver. And silver, as we know, is actually antimicrobial, believe it or not. So she said she'd take this coin and she threw it down into the well, and her grandfather gave her this coin, and she did it about once a month. She would go in there and she would take this small. Thank you, Rita Burnett, for that donation. We appreciate it. We were wondering if anybody loved us. Nobody was even saying hi. They're just like, yeah. Tell the stories, big man. Right. So anyways, she takes this coin and she throws it about once a month, and she goes, and then my grandfather, he would say that the magic elves would take these coins to their kingdom, and he would tell her this little story, and she was like, oh, that's pretty fantastical. Till one day she saw her brother and her dad and her grandfather with the pail fishing them out, getting them out of the well. So then I guess he would just give them to her and she'd do it all over again, right? But she was thinking there was this magical kingdom. But the problem is that her grandfather wasn't lying. The problem was this. The reason that he had her throwing this silver into the well, and she figured this out, she talked to him about it, was because these creatures would crawl up out of it. And if you kept the silver in there in the water, it would keep them out of the water and out of your life. They wouldn't be able to crawl up out of it. She remembers them looking like amphibious little elf-like creatures. And they would come and crawl out of the well. She remembers these other ones that looked like they came up out of the dirt. She started to remember these beings, and her grandfather described them to her as these earthen-bound jinn. Because to that culture and to the Arab culture and all the people from the Levant, everything's a jinn. The thing is, they're all different. One is not like the next. There's different species, different races, but they're all still under that same umbrella. Not unlike the Fae or the Fairy, right? Some of these were really hostile. And she said that at one time when she was 7 years old, she had this memory. She goes, and it scared the crap out of me. She's like, I will never forget this as long as I live. And this was her encounter with what we would call a Saloea. Saloea is a witch that can transform itself into something. This creature, now they have a different name for it. It was like Zykala or Zykala. I don't want to butcher the word. It starts with a Z. You know what I'm talking about? It's not that. But it's the same thing. Now, different dialect, different region. This isn't the Levant. This is North Africa, home of the Carthaginians. And she said, she's like, we have something very similar to the Saloea, because I was the one that brought that up. She says, yeah, it's just like that, but it's called the Zeka, whatever. Zydeco. I don't know. It was something with a Z, and I'm not going to try to mess. I already messed up Xena, called her Xena Warrior Princess, and I don't want to mess this up too. Zaina, sorry about that once again. But she said, look, she's like, this is, this creature, the thing that started showing up in the garden, and it would hop around at night and it would tear up the garden. It wouldn't eat anything. She's like, but I would see it catching rabbits and eating them. And she's like, I was 7 years old and I heard this pop, crack, 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 whatever. She's like, and I sit up out of my bed, and she says she goes, I run to I look out the window. She's like, and the window's open a little bit, so the breeze can come in. And she's like, my baby brother was there. He slept in the same room with me. She's like, my family wasn't very wealthy. She's like, but we weren't poor. We had a pretty decent sized place. She's like, and my grandfather did pretty good for himself. And he had a store in one of the cities there. And then he had like all these goods and things that he would sell. and people would come to these stores from other places, like a shop, like a market, right?
Mhm.
And he sold rugs and all this stuff. She's like, when we were kids, we would play amongst all this stuff. And then my older brother was like, I'm not going to play in there anymore. I saw this djinn in there. It was black. It was just solid black, and he was evil. And his eyes were blazing white, and it scared the crap out of him. Didn't want to go in there. But she continued to play in there, and then one day something said, Melinda. She turned, and she was like, something whispered my name. Then it said it again. And she turns around, and she's like, she's looking. She doesn't see it, but she hears it. And so this went on for, 2 or 3 years. She would hear something, and she'd walk, something would stop. She could hear it on the tile of the floor, and she'd be like, what was that? I heard something. And she says this day, though, she goes, I'd already experienced this for several years. She's like, since I was a toddler. I didn't remember any of it until this day that I took that coin, and then I found that piece of silver. It was silver. It was tarnished really bad, but it was silver. It was very old. And the lion that she saw, there wasn't a lion. There's one of two things. The way she described it was either a griffin or a manticore. That's what it was. The eagle, I'm thinking, was the griffin side, and the other side was the manticore. So these were mythical creatures. These were not animals.
Mhm.
And she doesn't have the coin anymore. She sold it, unfortunately. But anyways, this is what happened. She says she's looking out the window, and she sees this thing with this really skinny body, but it's really elongated, and it's got these dog-like legs, and it's got this wolf-like head, and it's just eating. It's just eating. And she's looking at it, and she's staring at it in horror, and she's like, what is this? I'm staring at this beast, like this, I don't know what it is. It's like a wolf. It's weird. She goes, and it's got this ridge on its back that's black, and the fur is kind of red, but it looks kind of like a human. And she goes, and then it stands up, and it looks, or it lifts itself up and puts its arm down and turns and looks at her, and it starts snapping at her, like in her direction, and then runs up to the window really fast. And she's like, and I fall backwards onto my bed, and I'm like, my feet are up, I have my legs up, and she's like, this thing was like reaching in at her. It was like, very bestial. It wasn't like it had human level intelligence. She's like, because if it did, it would have just opened the window and came in. She's like, but then she's like, when it pulled the arm back, it pushed the glass and it cracked it. She's like, and while this is going on, she's like, my uncle is in the hallway, and then he opens the door, and he's like, he sees it. He's like, oh my gosh, like, what is this? So he freaks out. He goes and he grabs her and her little brother, who is sound asleep. And at this point, this creature had just grabbed the edge of her nightgown, her little gown, and it pulled it. And she got away. And then a bunch of the men run outside with guns, and they start shooting into the night. And she says they weren't even close to it. She's like, I looked, and I saw it hiding behind the bushes, and they were just shooting into the shadows. And she went up, and she told him, she's like, it's over there. It's hiding. She's like, and the thing tilted its head and looked at her, and then backed away into the shadows and was gone. And I said, gone, like it's in, did it run? And she's like, no, like it was gone, like it vanished into the shadows, like a spirit would vanish, just disappear. And she said that was, and this is weird. She said that she raised Muslim, right? She was Islamic. But she said that was the first time in her whole life that she had ever thought about Jesus. She's like, I knew of Isa as like a prophet. He was one of the greatest prophets, if not the greatest prophet. But we didn't look at him as the son of God. She goes, but the next day, she has this weird dream. And the dream is this woman comes to her, and she said that she remembers this. She remembered this vividly. Like when she had, after this thing with the coin, it kind of woke her memories up, right? And she said it felt like something was trying to stop her from remembering this part. But she said there was this woman, and she thinks it was Mary. She thinks it was Mary. I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying it wasn't. All I'm saying is what she relayed to me. But she said that it put out its hand, and she touched it, and it said, my child. Fear not, my child. And then she says, I'm afraid. And she says, don't be afraid. She says, my son is with you. I am with you. And then it told her, be one with God. And then that was it. It was like it was gone. She said after that, whenever she would go to mosque, she would go and privately, she would pray to God, but she would talk to Jesus because she felt like that was Jesus's mother, Mary, who had come to her and basically witnessed to her. So this creature comes back night after night after night, and she watches it through the window. And every time she sees it, she would pray. She would say, Mother Mary, protect me. And then she would say, Jesus, please be with me and make me one with God. She would say these words, right? This prayer she would say. And she said, this thing began to get bigger. I've heard of this too. Like these imps even will grow.
Mm-hmm.
They'll get bigger. We've heard of this. She's like, and it got bigger and bigger until it was more, it wasn't a skinny little scrawny thing. It was like this big, powerful looking beast. She goes, and we had these big dogs. And they would growl and snap and then run and hide in the front porch or go to the backyard because this thing was out there and they were terrified of it. And then one day, she's like, the dogs were loose and they're running around the front yard. She had 3 of them. And this thing just came off of the roof. She saw it just jump down. At this point, she goes, I'm 8 years old. She's like, and this thing looked like a full-on, like a werewolf. She's like, it was just like a werewolf. And the way she says werewolf is like werewolf. A werewolf. I said, a werewolf? She says, a werewolf. I said, a werewolf? Anyways, so she's like, this thing, it looked like a werewolf. Very big, large, tall. I said, how tall? And by our estimates, she went by, meters. She's talking 7.5 feet. I said, that's about right. Almost 8. She said it was huge. Shoulders were big. She's like, when it stood up before, it might have been like a foot shorter, like just the year before. She's like, it was eating all these different animals that it was finding in the garden. She's like, these animals, I don't even know where they came from. It was like it was always eating them. I don't know where they were coming from or where this thing was getting them. She's like, it was bizarre, And then it gets a hold of one of the dogs, and she goes, it was the most gruesome thing I'd ever seen, even up to this point in my life. It just took one of our dogs, these huge, big dogs that we use to protect our sheep. She's like, and it just took it and lifted it up, and just it was in 2 pieces, like real quick.
Oh.
She's like, and it terrified me. She's like, and then one night she goes, I was dreaming that I was walking around out in the garden. She goes, and I see this wolf-like creature that keeps coming around. She goes, and it pushed the bushes apart. And she goes, and it was watching me, and it steps out between the 2 bushes. She's like, and I was like right there. It was like a dream. She's like, there was like this fog everywhere. She's like, and I heard it running around me in circles, and I couldn't see it. She's like, and then I realized, she goes, I looked into my bedroom. She's like, and there was my body. It was laying there. I was asleep, and I was out of my body. But this creature, whatever the hell it was, it could see me. It was there. It was really there. She's like, and then it just came up out of the fog and was like, and jumped on me. She's like, and I screamed, Jesus, Jesus, help me. And she said there was this light, and then it just kind of, the thing moved its arms up like that, and then it just kind of went backwards, back into the darkness. She's like, and then I was in my room. I wake up. She goes, and I know that it had just happened. She's like, and my little brother's got his legs, and he's curled up into the closet, and he's crying. We had no door in our closet, She said, and he's screaming and he's crying, and he points to the corner of the room, and there inside of our house, for the first time, this thing was in our house. It was standing there in the corner, and it came out, and it almost had like this sinister look on its face, like this grin, like, yeah, I'm inside now. And she screamed again. This is crazy, right? So she screams at this thing again, and she says, I'm not afraid of you. She goes, I was terrified. She goes, my heart was beating so fast. And it told her, it didn't speak, but it told her, it says, yes, you are. You're afraid. I'm going to take you now. And she said this thing went toward her, and she said, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke you. And she said, I don't know where those words came from or how it came from. It came out of me. She's like, I said it in French. She said, I said it in French. Now she's French Catholic. That's what she is now. But she said it in French, and she said this thing backed up, and she's like, then she said it again, and this thing, she said, I saw this thing kind of shrink up into like this black, smaller ball, still kind of looked like a wolf, and then run out of the room, down the hallway, And then she said, I started to follow it down the hallway. She's like, I had this little flashlight that my grandpa had given me, and I was looking, and I saw this black ball. She's like, about that. And I asked her how big it was. And I said, would it be like a softball, baseball, whatever? And she said, a little smaller than a basketball. And then it just floated away. And then there were these orbs that she would see, these green balls of light that would bounce around outside. And there was this weird imp-like creature that kept appearing in the mirror. And I know about that because at our house, we had this weird thing that would appear in the mirror. And so this imp-like creature, she saw it in the mirror 2 or 3 times. And once it reached out of the mirror and tried to grab her. And she screamed in the same thing. She was screaming out to Jesus. So her grandfather hears her screaming out to Christ, and he goes to her and he's like, why do you not cry out for Allah? Why Jesus? And she tells him the story. And so her grandfather reprimands her and says, you don't cry out to Jesus. He's just the prophet. He's not, And she's like, no, Grandpa, he's the Son of God. And he tells her, no. And she says, he died on the cross. And your grandpa says, no. He didn't die on the cross. He was too holy, and Allah took him. She says, no, Grandpa, he died, and he rose back up because he's the Son of God. And he was like, no. So they argued peacefully. Grandmother comes in and she's like, look, child, you need to read the Quran, whatever. She's like, we weren't overly religious. And some of the Muslims in town did not like her grandfather because he did practice the old ways. He used sigils and runes and things like that to ward off certain creatures. So she told him, she says, Grandpa, you practice the old ways. You also read from the Quran. She's like, but it's not stopping this creature from coming to us and attacking us. And it's becoming stronger. He's like, how do you know it's becoming stronger? She's like, because it's grown in size. And then, luckily, her uncle, he comes out and he totally defends her. And he tells the grandfather, he said, she's right. This thing is getting stronger. I saw it in my window the night before last. This is a savage beast, and it's getting worse. It's already killed one of our dogs. It's taken all the cats, and all of the animals around the neighborhood are gone. Have you not noticed? The neighbors are talking about it too. They've seen it. And everything that you've done up to this point is not working. So maybe we should try something else. And Grandpa kind of shakes his head. Yeah. But they had a very religious zealot uncle, the older brother. He comes out and he's just like, this is blasphemy. You're blaspheming Allah. You're saying these things that Allah cannot stop these things. These things are just beasts, savage beasts. This is a giant wolf. I don't know why it's here, but it's here. Somebody bought it at the market in Morocco and brought it here. Right? Because they told them there's no wolves running around in this area of Algeria. Well, they came from Morocco. This is like excuses, right? It's like this is a beast. This is a monster. This is nothing. We could kill it with a gun if we could shoot it. Problem is we've tried multiple times, right? And it's not working. Hassan. His name was Hassan. And her other brother, his name is Muhammad, but Muhammad was like, look, I don't know why this thing is not dying. But he's like, even though my name is Muhammad, I'm willing to give Jesus a try so he talked his father, the grandfather, who's pretty open-minded. And he said, look, you make these different types of things. You've used crosses to ward off things before. Now, her grandfather had a story about a vampiric type creature too, that he did use oak wood cross that he made, that he got from, not oak wood, cypress. It was cypress wood to ward off this creature that was attacking someone at night. And she said, that's an interesting story, but that's not what we're talking about tonight. So she says, look, this is what happened. She said that the grandfather went to the neighbors. The neighbor says, yes, we're having problems with this creature, but it's predominantly coming from your abode. Same thing. Neighbors all like, there's like, several of them that live in this little, it's not even really a village, like a subdivision of a village. It's really small. And she says that they're all like, we're all having problems. We just figured it was something that was after you. But it's unaliving our pets at a pretty fast clip. So thanks. And they're getting aggravated. Right? So then he's like, I got to do something about this. So he prays, he meditates, he fasts, and he does what he does. And he had this ability to leave his body, and he could consort with beings. I don't know if they were demons or angels, and I didn't ask. I don't know. She said they were angelic. I left it at that. He goes to her and he says, I've been told what we need to do. Then that night that he was doing this talking with the angels or whatever, she says, I know what we need to do too. And he says, okay, child, you're so smarty, you know. Then tell me what we do. You're the smart child. And she says, we need to get silver. We need to gather up as much silver as we can, and we need to create bullets. And she's a child, but she understood bullets and mechanics. And she says, look, and we need to shoot it. She's like, it's not a normal monster. It's something else. She said, it's a witch, but it's no longer human. It doesn't have a humanity. And he said, where does it come from? She said, there's a cave. She says, I don't know how I knew this, but I told him because everything had come flooding back to me. She says, I remember I was talking to this woman who I thought was the Virgin Mary. Now, she said it may not have been. It may have been just an angel of the Lord. But it said, look, it told her, go to this cave while it sleeps in the day. Take this silver, make as many of these as you can, these weapons, these bullets, whatever. So they made shotgun pellets, BBs, and they took all this silver and they turned it into bullets. They loaded their guns up. Here's another thing. As a child, right, an 8 going on 9 at this point, she said I was 8 going on 9. She says, I remember this. And she says, this memory was gone. It was wiped from my mind. And she said, but I remembered it. She goes, I remember telling them. She's like, not just to shoot it, but you have to get really close to it. You have to go right up to it or the bullet won't hit its mark. Not in those words, but that's what she said. Not that. She goes, it was that was the gist of it. I'm not changing her words. I'm saying that's what she said to them, that you have to get close. And so these people were just listening to this child, and one of them was like, why are we listening? Hassan, that's the uncle. He's like, why are we listening to a child? There's 27 grown men standing here, and we're listening to my niece. Kind of like on Aliens. Why don't you put her in charge? Game over, man. Game over. The sell away is just, well, what they don't call it. They call it whatever. But, just gonna chomp our bones. We're done for because we're listening to a little kid tell us what to do. And she said, I was so angry with him. She's like, but I told him, she's like, I forgive you. And he says, okay, good. Thanks. She's like, he was very, snarky, my words, not hers, but, he was very snarky. And they marched off to go do this. They come back -1. Because one of the guys had fallen somewhere into the cave and they couldn't find him. Nor did they find this beast. It was not in the cave where they thought it was. So they eventually they get everybody together and they get these supplies and they go back with rope and everything and they whatever they needed and they pulled this guy out. He lived, but he ended up with 2 broken legs. But he did confirm, he said, there's a hole down there and there is a creature down there. There's a tunnel. He goes, but I think it sleeps during the day. And he goes, and I thank Allah that you came and got me before nightfall. Because I think that this thing comes out at night. And they're like, how do you know? He's like, I just know. I know. I have this feeling. Everybody was in agreement. Okay. So then we wait at the mouth of this cave. That night, nothing happened. There was nothing, no activity, nothing happened. So the next night, they decided to do that. They were like, they went back to the cave. They waited. They didn't see this thing come or go. It's like it knew what they were doing. And they went back again. Nothing happened. And this happened over and over again for 7 days. 7 days. She's like, on the seventh night, she's like, this is it. They're like, we either find this thing or we don't. Well, everybody's got to work. We can't, we're working people. We got to get up we can't be up all night doing this. Right? The seventh night, it comes out. They ambush it. One of them gets really severely injured, but it was only because he got shot with silver buckshot in his leg, messed his leg up. She's like, and they all hit it, and it did a bunch of damage, and it blew it apart. And so this thing was done for. It was absolutely done for. When they looked down at this creature, it was no longer a wolf-like werewolf type creature. It was just a man. And they recognized this as this guy who used to be a beggar, who begged on the streets in the main city. And I can't remember the name of the city. It's in Algeria. But there was this beggar in the little town, a little city market where she was from. She's like, and this guy was there. And about 3 years ago, 3 years before that, he had just vanished. But get this, he had a friend. He had a friend at that market, and they went to this guy. And he had a weird name like Mermac or something like that. I can't remember his name exactly. She couldn't either. She couldn't remember his name. But she said it was something like Mermac or Markin or something. So she says that they went to this guy, and he had a weird name. He was from Tunisia. He wasn't from there. But they asked him, they said, what happened to this guy? He said, I don't know. One day he said that this dog-like thing bit him and drug him down the street, and it started to get infected. She's like, so I helped him. I gave him some alcohol and whatever. And then the next day he didn't show back up, and I went looking for him where he usually was, and I didn't see him. Sometimes he would do a little bit of work for me, and that was it. People had suspected maybe that this guy had done something to him. And he was like, why would I kill this beggar? And so they never could prove anything. They just said, well, nobody cares about the guy. They left him alone, and they went on about their life. But there he was. And she said, when they came back, everybody was solemn, very quiet. And it was very, when they told her the story of what happened, it was just like, she said it was almost like I was in a dream. She's like, I knew that this was correct, but I only knew it was correct because of what I had been told by what was either Mary or an angel of the Lord. So that's her story. And I thought it was interesting. Give me 1 second, folks. So it was very poignant when they began to speak to her, and her uncle Hassan said he got down on his knee and he said, I'm sorry. He says, your friend, she goes, yeah, your friend was right. There was a creature, and it worked. And this is true. She said, they sat at the kitchen table and the grandfather was talking to multiple people, and he says, I got to relocate. And they said, why? He says, because this angel, when I talked to this being that I've been talking to, told me that he was sent here by Jesus. And he says, and so I must go to church and I have to go to this other place to go to the church. They had one Christian church that was in that area. It was Coptic. And it was where some of the guys from the Foreign Legion would go. And he met this Nigerian guy that was there praying. And he went up to him, and the guy stood up. He said this guy was like a mountain of a guy. He was like 6'6", whatever. And he says, "Brother, are you here to hear the word?" And he says, "Yes. I've never set foot in a Christian church in my life." And then he realized that he wasn't living his life correctly. Not for being a Muslim, but because he was messing with sigils and things like that to ward off evil that
Mm-hmm.
And so he went back to his workshop and he got rid of all of it. He melted it down. He went to the body of this man that had been shot with the silver. Now, a lot of people accused them of murdering somebody. They said, no, this wasn't a werewolf. This was a murder. This was a homeless, crazy man that came out of that cave, and you all freaked out and shot him dead. So they did this little investigation. But the authorities there actually uncovered some strange things. They uncovered human bones in the cave that had been gnawed on by a wolf. Bones of all kinds. It was a lair. It was a shallow cave with a tunnel and a little den, and there were wolf prints all over the place. This guy that had turned into this creature had told that Marmon or Marmok, whatever his name was, the guy starts with an M, whatever. He had told that guy, he had told his friend that he was visited by this winged being one time. He thought he was dreaming. He was sleeping out in the street right in front of his little shop. And he said that he would give him bread in the morning because the guy would protect his stuff from vandals. And so he gave him a little information. He says, look, the guy told me that some weird black djinn type angel thing had visited him. And he told him, he says, I want to be a monster. And this being told him, okay. And then a few days later, he was bitten and drugged through the streets by this savage dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when she's telling me this, I said, look, okay, let me wrap my mind around this. I said, so Marmok, whatever his name was, the Tunisian Berber guy, like he was running that shop, and this beggar, the homeless guy, told him that he wanted to do this. Then it started to come out that he said, look, this being wanted me to perform tasks for him. And one of the tasks was to eliminate a couple of these people who were a part of the Christian church. So one of these priests had gone out for a walk. He disappeared. He never came back. And it was widely believed that some of the Muslims in the area had taken him. On closer examination, they found this guy's habit, like he had like the robe, and they found pieces of it, and they found the cross. He also, this entity, this being, wanted him to take out one of the Muslim clerics, and he did, apparently, because they found the remains of this guy. It was one of 4 people that were found in that cave. I asked her this. I said, why do you think this is? Why do you think that this happened? And she was very matter of fact. She goes, to start a war so that the Muslims would rise up and kill the Christians there, to cause a problem. In Morocco at that time, see, you do your homework, and if you know your history, there aren't a lot of Christians left in that region. And in Morocco, of all the North African countries, that one in particular is one of the last countries to have what?
Synagogues.
They had burned and destroyed and taken out most of the synagogues. Some of the Jewish population, they assimilated, but they didn't actually assimilate. They pretended to be Muslim. so they could fit in. But in revenge, this is the story. I'm not saying this really happened. This is what the locals there believe. They created these dibuk boxes, and they gave them to the mosque as a present. This is a token of our appreciation. We're now one of you. And these clerics, unbeknownst to them, did not know that this was a trap. They took them home, and bad things happened. And one of them became possessed. So much so that they found these weird satanic artifacts, it can only be described as satanic, in the back of the mosque that he was using. And there was the dibuk box. Had been there for 5 generations. Then, this is what she said. She said, then they did this investigation, and like the churches kind of got together and they were like trying to figure this out. This guy, one of the things that he was trying to do was summon, I'm not going to say the name of this demon, but it was a demon, is what it was. A very powerful demon, a direct descendant of the fallen. And its job was to make werewolves, basically. Your life sucks, things ain't working out for you, become a lichen. You can be liking us. And we'll have you liking life in no time. So long story short, this guy who was doing this, right, his name was Ishmael. They would have confronted him, but he had disappeared a long time ago. They didn't know what happened to him. They never saw him again. Some people claim that he had moved to Egypt, and that was it. They didn't know anything else. So they found all of this. They found his works. They found all this writing, all this weird stuff that he had been doing. And she said this happened when she was like 10. And there was this big investigation, right, about this because they were discovering things about it. So all the pieces kind of fell into place. But then she asks her grandfather, she's like, I'm on the phone call with my grandfather, and I ask him, and I'm saying, why am I just now remembering all of this? And he told her, he said, for your own protection. He's like, we converted to Christianity on your word. He's like, they would have killed us. He's like, and Hassan, the most zealot, the most fervent in his faith, also converted to Christianity, but now he's Orthodox. And he doesn't live there. He lives in Germany. But the thing that is weird about this whole story, it's just a very bizarre story. And it all started with this weird imp that came into her sleep at night with this weird coin. And so I said, what happened to the coin? She said, I had it for a long time. She's like, and then I sold it. I just was like, I don't need this. I don't know what I'm doing with it. It's very old. And the guy that bought it from her gave her like almost 20 grand. She found out later that I was correct. I told her before she even told me, I said, I think that is Assyrian. It was. Get this. The Assyrians had a very large population of Coptic Christians. Mm-hmm. The Coptic Assyrian Christians actually created some of these coins to protect from those creatures. And it was supposedly, and I might get this wrong, Saint Ignatius, or it was Saint, I don't know, it was one of the saints supposedly that had given them this and said, keep this and you'll be protected. And during the Muslim incursions, when the Assyrians, not Syrians, Assyrians, they're still around. There's a population of them in Chicago. There's a whole thriving community of them there.
Yeah, they're still in a Syrian church.
Assyrian church, yeah. Coptic Christians, right? And so they were given these to protect them from these creatures that had followed the armies. The Muslims had awakened these creatures. Now the Muslims weren't summoning them; they were just, showing up because of the war, the bloodshed. And so there was an Assyrian population that was being preyed upon by these creatures, and so they were given to these medals by this saint. And like I said, you got to look it up. I don't know the exact name, but it protected them from these beings. So when she took that metal, that silver, whatever, and he says, "Child, do you remember?" Her grandfather, right? She said this was 2 days before he died. Right? 2 days. This wasn't that long ago. He died like 2 years ago, whatever. He told her, he says, "Look." And I said, her parents are still alive, but her grandfather passed away. But she said that he told her, he says, "Child, do you remember the silver necklace I gave you? It's the cross. I made it for you in my shop. There's writing on the back of it." She's like, "Yeah, I remember." She's like, "I lost it a long time ago." He goes, "No, I have it. And when I come to visit you next week, I'll give it to you." He says, I have cancer. I'm dying." Told her. He said, "I need to see you." And he hung on for a couple of years. And he lived to be 85 years old. He was an old man when he passed away. But he said, "Look, everybody," he's like, "needs Jesus. I made that for you." He's like, "And when you were playing in the garden, you lost it, and I gave it back. I'll bring it to you." He said, "It's more special than you could possibly know." When he brought this necklace to her, this pendant, he puts it in her hand. She's like, "Oh, it's big. I remember it being big on my neck, and that's why I took it off to play." He said, "Yeah, I thought maybe it was too big for you. So when you dropped it in the sand, you were looking for it. I just took it. And I figured I would give it to you when it was time. And this was the time." And he told her, he says, "Now you're strong in your faith." And he says, "This silver, that the chain, that the crucifix, everything is attached to," he told her, he said, "This was from the silver that we used to eliminate that creature." He said, "I took all the silver together and I made three of them with the chains. And one for my wife, one for me, and one for you." He said, "When your grandmother, his wife, passed away, I gave it to your mom. She still has one." And her mother called the next day and was like, "Get this." She's like, "I found this crucifix. I'd forgotten all about it, and it was there in your dad's work cabinet. He had it hanging up there the whole time."
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. You tell me. So she said that she got one of these creatures that tried to visit her the night after her grandfather left. It was something that came out of the closet, and she was like in that dreamlike state.
Mm-hmm.
And she sat up and she held onto the crucifix, and she was like, "I rebuke you in the name of Christ." And this thing just like backed up, then tried to come back again, kind of bluff charging, And she stood up in bed. She goes, "I was standing in the bed." She goes, and my fiance is like, he's like freaking out, like, "What is going on?" Well, they're married, I guess now, but she was just like, he's like, "What are you doing? Why are you jumping around in the bed? What's the problem here?" And she says, "Look, there's something that tried to come." And then he's already gotten used to it. She's like, he's used to my weird stuff. He just goes, "Okay, fine." But the grandfather told them they needed to get married. They had to get married. And that was the one thing that was stopping her, from being a good, I guess, in his eyes, a good Christian. So they had to agree. And, so they were boyfriend and girlfriend, and they were fiance, and then they got married. But the thing that's interesting about this whole story is the way, not getting in touch with this person and talking to them and actually getting to the bottom of all of this. What's most interesting to me about this whole thing was that I was going over a woman's story named Melinda for TikTok, right? Then I see something looking down at me, which I still am convinced was real. I don't think it was a hallucination. I lose 5 minutes. I don't know where the hell that went. I'm a pretty strong-minded person. I'm not going to be tricked by some demon into losing time. And I'm not going to be abducted either. Okay? If that happens, you'll be the first to know, and I'll be like, I'll eat my words. But I don't believe it can happen to me. I don't believe it. I don't. I think I could see a lot of things, but I don't think they can hurt me. I just do not believe that. If you do, then you need to pray. That's all I can tell you. Well, I can tell you a whole lot more, but we don't have a million years. But so this thing happened to me. Then we look up in the deal, right? And we find Melindra's story. Melindra, both involving imps, but this one involved imps and a crazy thing that happened when she was a child that she had totally forgotten about. And it started with her walking on the beach of Normandy and possibly going through a time slip and running into these German and French troops. I knew she wasn't lying when she said the French soldier was there too, because anybody can make up a story and go, well, that was these German soldiers and they were Nazis and they were bad and they did bad things. They didn't do anything bad to her. They were just going to take her up to the higher command and be like, who are these weird people? Look at the way they're dressed. You know, why are they on our beach? Are they spies? I don't know. Why did they just wander up here? You know, the French guy was just like, look, we're just going to ask you some questions. We don't know how you got here, blah, 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 blah. And it might have been suspect if she hadn't told me that part, because I was like, okay, I've heard a million stories about people time slipping and things like that. I could talk about them forever. But that part right there really stuck with me, because I was like, wait a minute. I was like, you said that. And then she described their insignias and everything. And knowing what I know about history, I was like, okay. Yeah. Because that was an Ardennes attachment that had gotten sent to that front, but it was just a skeleton crew, which is why it was so easy to take Normandy, because they weren't expecting to be hit there.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to get into a big old long thing, but when you start going through history and and it's really amazing how the Panzers were able to get through. Nobody believed that they could get through that, except for the Germans, you know. It's kind of like everybody's laughing. They're like, they can't get through the Maginot. They just did. We had really fortified the Maginot line. We really did, right, guys? Yeah, we did. Well, now they're here, though. This is awkward. And then the British are like, never fear. We have these hulking Matildas. The 30 mils can't even penetrate the armor. No, I pity you, old lie. They just messed up our tank. What the hell is going on? Oh, crap. Oh, they are actually killing us. Whoa, I think we're losing. Let's go further back. Okay, you know what? Let's run into the ocean screaming.
Cheerio.
Cheerio. You Frenchmen got this, but later in history, you'll be mocked as being cowards, and we will be the heroes. We shall be victorious. But see ya. And the French are like, what in the hell are you doing? Wow, you're running into the ocean. Oh, well, 42,000 of us, well, actually 43, will be annihilated by the German onslaught. German armor was just unstoppable. It was incredible. The French military at that time was no joke. It was estimated that the French military at that time was the fourth strongest army in the entire world, only behind the United States, Russia, and of course, now we know, Germany. It was the largest standing army in Europe next to Russia, and they got the holy hell beat out of them. Pretty impressive what happened. The British, though, was really impressive. My hat's off to them about how they were able to scramble out into the ocean. The only thing I regret about that was just that they didn't destroy the Soviets. Would have been a win-win for everybody if you would have just gone in and crushed the Red Army. After Germany capitulated, they should have rearmed and moved them to the front and used them as the spearhead to pierce the heart of the Red Beast and get 2 for 1. If you're going to get rid of fascism, get rid of communism. You can't kill half a beast. You got to kill the whole thing, and the head has to be taken down. They should have marched right into the Soviet heart of the Soviet Empire. No Iron Curtain. None of the horrors and 100 million people that suffered and died. That's the only thing I wish, that things would have been different. That's the regret, isn't it? Patton, yep, Patton said it. He was like, give me a nickel of time, and I'll start a fight with these Ruskies, and I'll make it look like it's their damn fault. But you got to remember, that's a bygone era, and that is not what is today. Germany is a totally different place, and Russia is a different place. And the war with Russia right now, it's not the same people. It's not. This war now is an orchestrated war. It's a commercial war. In fact, I'll give you a little nugget. The Russians actually they send people just like the Ukrainians, just like the Americans, just like everybody, just like the Iranians. They send their people to these weapons conventions, and they're like looking at them going like, this is what's been knocking our tanks out. We should, let's invest in this. And they go and they do it. And then they make videos of their drones and the different things that they're using. And you're like, what in the hell is going on here? This isn't the war the way my grandfather fought war. This isn't the war the way my uncles fought war. And believe me, I had 3 or 4 of them that went to Vietnam from both sides. This is a different type of war. Then the next battleground, folks, will be completely different. It will be devoid of all humanity. You watch. And these beings, these entities, these creatures, they're going to sit back and wait until we annihilate half of ourselves, and then they're going to come out. Because they're there, they're waiting, they're just in hiding. When I do this, just so you know, because people are like, he's crazy, he rocks back and forth. My damn back is hurting, so shut the hell up, all right? You're sitting here for 3 hours with your back hurting. Your back will be hurting too. Yeah. It's just a habit because my back is hurting. Not that I owe you an explanation, go brush your teeth. The point is that there are people out there that don't get it. They just don't, and they never will. Because real war is not about humans and flesh and blood. No. What does Jesus say? We wrestle with the spirit, and the flesh just follows suit. You think about that? No, you don't. You just think about yourself, don't you? Yeah, eating yogurt, rollerblading, having fun, going to Taco Bell. Had to joke, man. Had to break it up a little bit. Getting a little too serious. Like, okay, well, if you're getting a little weird about this, what's going on with this apocalypse, man? I don't know what's going on. Speaking of apocalypse, I got somebody coming on who's going to talk at the beginning of April. Or no, I think it's April 11th. It's either April 4th or April 11th. I have James Bartley on one day, and I think that's the 4th. And then on the 11th, we have Jason McLean, who's going to come on, and he's going to talk about I always get this word wrong. Gosh, let me say it correctly. It's going to be an interesting show. Let's put it that way. But I got to tell you, let's see here. No, that's Texas.
Someone said eschatology.
Eschatology. But I wanted to make sure I said it correctly because I always say I always say eschanology, but it's eschatology, which if you don't know what that word means, and it was Jason just sent me the text and he said, hey, how about for the show we talk about eschatology? And I was like, the apocalypse. And he said, good, done and done. And so that's what we're going to talk about. So that is coming up. Let me give you the date on that so you guys don't miss it. It's going to be a Friday night, and we're going to talk about the end of the world, the end of time. How am I not finding this? Well, this is weird. Like, he was one of the people I had messaged today. It was like, here it is. He said he's going to, okay, so when he said eschatology, I said Judgment Day. And he said, done and done. He said, we can start with my work on Revelation 12 and go from there. So interesting.
Yeah.
So Jason McLean, very smart guy. Him and Dean Bertram, Two of the very unsung heroes of this field are very intelligent guys. And there's a lot of guys. There's a ton of guys and gals both that I want to get on this show, and I just want to get them on here and cut it up with them, because there are so many people doing good work right now, and it's all coming together. And so the men and women of this field that are doing this, you don't want to miss a show. Don't miss it. You know, whether it's going to be about ghosts or alien abduction or Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever, don't miss it, because there's so much happening right now, and it all ties in together. It's all connected. It's all connected. Don't let the buffoons in this field distract you. They don't believe in it. They won't until Hell's Gates are right there in front of them. Then they're going to believe. And they're fools. Don't let them trip you up. So what happens to Melindra? She's basically tells me, look, you know, she's been here in America for the last 3 months. She's got a job. She's been working on the East Coast. And it's, but anyway, she's a very interesting person. She's very strong in her faith, but that's her faith. Her family converted. And I told her, I said, you have a gift. You were, and she told the encounter pretty good. She has a strong accent, but we were able to get through it. Luckily, I know enough Arabic, and she knows enough English, that it was pretty smooth. But she said some things, like she actually believes, too, that we are in the end times and that this is it. These creatures are the beasts of the earth that are going to try to devour mankind. And it's not necessarily devour them in the way that you would think. No, this is her theory, which I agree this could be. This could be. But that dark angel thing that came to that beggar, that's what it's going to do. It's going to offer you a way to not be human. Wouldn't you like that? Don't be a human. Don't be a puny, weak human, because when the giants and the robots and the reptilians come and do whatever they're going to do, you're just going to be in this little weak body. You're just going to die. Don't you want to be strong and be able to fight back? Right? Or fight whoever it is we say the devil is. So be more than human, more human than human, right? Be transhuman. Transhumans, more human than human. Whatever you do, you're gonna die. It doesn't matter. Don't even try. Oblivion. That's basically it, right? I mean, that's what we're looking at right now. It's lightning outside.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you this. Don't fall for it. You're already in a matrix within a matrix. This is within a universe within a universe. You know that? We're actually in a black hole that's inside of a universe that's actually inside of another universe. Did you know that? I bet you didn't know that. And do yourself a favor. Research and look up the black cube. Look it up. Cubes. Those angles. That's how you imprison beings, entities. Amazing how vibrations are not angular. You know that? It's all waves. It's rounded. Like Bruce Lee says, be like water. Water. You ever notice how fire looks? We always draw it like it's pointy, but it's really not. It's kind of just like, you know. Look at the earth. You could pick up dirt and throw it. It doesn't have angles to it. The wind doesn't have angles. Elements, natural elements found within the earth, these are not angular. And even when you pick up natural, minerals, they're not angular. You know who makes angles? We do. You know who else makes angles? Demons. The archons. Angels. These are things that come from another dimension, another realm. Because in this realm, it's all natural. Everything was born by vibration. So when you create angles, guess what? You're creating a prison. Interesting who or what is on Saturn, right? The black cube, it's there. It's not a natural formation. You know what the Kaaba is, right? We talked about this last night,
Yeah.
right? It's not the black cube. It is a giant cube in Mecca where they just walk around and around and around it because there's this black rock. And if you notice, you know, Islam follows Judaism to a T up to a certain point. Then it kind of veers off. And they both kind of just bypass Christianity. And in the story tonight, if you remember, if you recall, it was these converted people who had tricked these, you know, and with the Dybbuk. And these people, they fell for it. And what ends up happening, you have these weird vibrations that come from these entities, these creatures. And I think that what happens is when they bring themselves to our plane, they're not alone. I think that the good guys follow them too. I think they track them. And they're like, okay, you want to mess with someone that God has anointed. And that could be a male or a female. Look in the Bible. There are many women that were anointed just like men. I told her this. I told Melindra, I said, do you still have these dreams? She goes, no, not really. And I told her, I said, I think that you were anointed. And the reason, she said, why Mary? Why would she come to me? And I said, why would Mother Mary come? I'm not Catholic. I do have the Saint Benedict because it's a protection. But I told her, I said, you know why? Because you were a child and you needed that mothering figure. You said your mother was gone a lot. She was working all the time. Her and your dad your dad were away a lot. You stayed with your grandparents. And they would travel overseas and then come back. And I told her, I said, your grandparents took care of you. Your grandmother was not believing what you were saying, and you needed that female presence to come to you, to comfort you. I'm not a big fan of the Beatles. A lot of people talk about the Beatles, and I could talk about it all day long about the satanic undertones, you know, whatever with them. And of course,
I've never been a big fan of them either.
There's only a few songs.
I got a handful of songs, and then the rest is just like, I don't know, man. What is
just kind
this?
of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But one of them I really like, and it's the lyrics, Mother Mary comforts me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be, let it be. You heard that song? Let it be, let it be,
Yeah.
let it be, let it be. That song. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. You know, that song, that one is one of the songs that I really like. John Lennon was a commie, probably was. I don't care. I'm not into him, so whatever. Can you give me a towel or something? I'm just all wet right here. Got my drink, but it was getting rained on. So if there's anybody who wants to talk, ask any questions, we have some time here if you want. No, don't use that. I got to use it. I need a paper towel or something that I can dry this with. If you don't mind, thanks. So if anybody wants to ask a question or you have anything you want to say it now. Gil Sanchez says the Beatles were heavy into Crowley. Yeah, sure. The British military was heavy into Crowley. They used him against the Nazis. It was so bad, man. They were doing some really naughty things, dude. They used witches. Believe that. And then Lucky Luciano and the mafia helped the Italians to clear the landing for the Allies. Whatever it takes, I guess, right? Whatever it takes. Let's see. You want to look and see if you see any questions in there? Crowley tortured Hess. I wouldn't doubt it. Anybody know about Rudolf Hess? That's a story in of itself. Weird thing about him. while we're looking for some other questions. Rudolf Hess, he flew his plane to Britain. This is weird. Why? Why? Nobody ever did figure that out. 46 years he was a prisoner of the British, and a lot of people believed that why keep him alive? Why was he not taken and tried at Nuremberg? Why wasn't he just like this left there? Hey, you know what? We're going to put you and execute you. But no, but they didn't. It was really weird. And then he was examined, and a lot of people believe that the person that was in prison wasn't really him. But there were other theories about Rudolf Hess that he might have been a royal. And he thought he could work a deal with the British, to get them to see, as they thought, reason and fight against the communists with them. They just couldn't understand why the British would not fight with them against the communists.
So we got a question. Someone wants to know what you think about purgatory.
Oh, okay. We don't have enough time to go into the entire synopsis. I mean, I'll give you what I know. It's a state of being, but it can also be a place, because the state of being that we're in right now. Think of the story we talked about tonight, well, encounters that she had tonight, when Melindra was walking down the beach at Normandy, and she ended up in 1944, and she ended up like whatever. That was a place, right? But it was more a state of being, wasn't it? Does that make sense? So you die in the flesh, right? And you go to an intermediate state. Now, a lot of the people will say this is not true because they are Protestant. I am not a Protestant, and I'm not a Catholic. And no, I don't worship Leviathan, the thong, thong, thong. No, I don't. As much as some lunatics would like to believe, I'm not a Satanist, okay? I'm a follower of Christ. And I think anybody who would worship anything other than God is a fool. The foolish man says in his heart, there is no God, right? So there is a purgatory. The early church knew this, and it's still very much part of the doctrine. Of course, the Catholic Bible has more books in it. I believe it's 77. Look it up. It is 77 books. No. There's 66 in the
I think it might be 73, because
73,
I think the King James took 7 books out.
Yeah, 73. I know the Book of Tobit is in there. There's these other books. So the Catholic Bible, I believe it is 72 or 73 books. You're right. Maybe J.D. Smoot says 77. I might have been right to begin with. I shouldn't second guess. I'll go with 77. I don't know. What does it say?
I don't know. I'm looking it up.
But there are these books that are in the Bible, and that would now, because I don't think that's right, because that would be 11 that they would have taken out. But that would 77 sounds about right. I don't know. That was my first answer. I don't know. So if you look at the Catholic Bible, I mean, and it's still a doctrine that's taught today, right? And I know the Ethiopian 73. Okay. The Ethiopian Bible has what? 81? 80 something?
Let me see.
J.D. Smoot says 77, but that could be apocryphas that are not there anymore. And I have a list of some of the books. I can tell you right now some of the most important ones. And I'll wrap it up with what this has to do with the price of rice in China. Watch out.
Ethiopian Bible has 81 books.
81, so I was right. As always. I'm joking. I'm wrong. Don't listen. I'm just here. Okay, now let me go to home. Close that door. Dang it. I hate the way it's different on the phone than it is on the computer. Hang on, give me 1 second, and I'm going to read something to you. It's very important. All right, so it's on my phone here. Let me get my glasses. I'm getting old, folks. Got to put on those glasses and know what the hell is going on, people. Whoa, I'm gonna put myself on a freaking eye.
I cannot see.
That's a weird looking look. Yeah, you better not park there. They've been towing people all day. So this is a list for me, and it goes to the 10 most. Let me see if I can find it here. It's a hard time sometimes here. This is the 10 most. This is every book that was rejected, like at the beginning, like right there. Okay, Maccabees, Gospel of Judas, Testament of Solomon, the Ascension of Isaiah, the Acts of Thomas, the Gospel of the Egyptians, Acts of Paul and Thecla, Acts of Peter, Infancy, Gospel of James, Secret Gospel of Mark. And these are like this, it's called the pseudepigrapha or pseudepigrapha, which is, it's this word, look it up. I mean, these are what they call the pseudepigrapha. The book of Enoch is in that, right? So the Apocalypse of Abraham, the Apocalypse of Peter, Secret Gospel of Mark. Now there's a lot more. There's a bunch of others. There's the Book of Giants, the Book of Og. There's a billion other books, but these are the ones that were rejected. And I believe this is the Council of Nicaea. So those are books that are not in the Bible. If you want to go and look them up and read them, go ahead. Here's the funny thing to me. They say, well, how could these books be correct? Because they were written in the 3rd century or the 2nd century AD and blah, blah, blah. But so was the Gospels. The Gospels were written much later than after Jesus had passed. In fact, all the Old Testament was written long, long after it had already happened. They were in captivity in Persia, and Cyrus let them go. He wanted them gone, obviously. And then he was like, I'm a great man. I did this great thing. And they said, yeah, he was a great guy. He liked us a lot, but he told us to go home because he liked us. No, there was a bunch of problems. So he kicked them out. So they went back to what was once Israel. It was no longer Israel. It was actually just Judea. The priesthood managed to survive, nothing else. And there are some who believe that it was a sellout. When the Assyrians conquered them, the Judean priests were like, take all of them, but leave us here because just leave us here so we can inhabit this area and we'll pay you tribute. And we'll continue to fleece the people around us, the Galileans and the Nazarenes and everybody, and then we'll give you money. And that's what they did. So they said, you're going to generate income and do nothing. We're not going to. And they said, yes, we'll just tax the people and give it to you. Okay. And so they left them alive. They left them alone. Then the Babylonians came along, kicked the Assyrians' ass, and then the Persians came along, kicked the Babylonians' ass, and blah, 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 blah. When you do the history, you start looking back, you're going like, wow, this isn't what I was taught in Sunday school. And then because you believe something that you were taught as a child, you say, oh, well, Wolf, you're an apostate. You're a heretic. You're a guy that's leading people down the wrong road. No, I'm the guy that's telling you the truth. You must be the other guy. People don't want to hear that what they were taught in Sunday school might not be correct and that it doesn't fit like a glove. Because, no, it doesn't. It fits like OJ's glove, which I think if they would have taken the underglove off, it would have fit correctly, but that's just my opinion. I mean, he killed those people, and they're like, he didn't do it. Then later on, he's like, yeah, I did it. And I'm going to whoop your ass over some sports cards, too. Now I'm in prison. Now I'm dead. Now I'm in hell. But anyway, besides all of that, right? Intermediate state. Well, this is interesting. There were some people on a ghost show one day, and I just happened to catch a clip of it. Somebody had sent this to me. They said, "What do you think of this?" They were in Milwaukee, and they were investigating the Milwaukee monster. It's not the monster you would think. It's not like a werewolf or a vampire or a Bigfoot. It was Jeffrey Dahmer, right? The homosexual, in case you're living under a rock, he was a cannibal, and he's homosexual. He killed men, which typically serial killers kill people that they're attracted to. It's true. That's what they do. And so he murdered a bunch of people, right? 17 that we know of, but the number could have been higher. He himself said he was in a drunken stupor at the time. He didn't even know. He was on pills, and he was giving his victims these pills and incapacitating them. They went to the apartment building that he was once, living at, and of course it's not there anymore. But you know what is there? A park with swings and slides and monkey bars for the little kids to go play in. Right above their head in apartment 213 is where he unalived multiple people. I think he killed like 12 people up there or something like that, 10 to 12 people. And just in that apartment while he worked at the chocolate factory. What was the name of the chocolate factory? The Ambrosia Chocolate Factory. Ambrosia. Milk of the gods. But he was very satanic. Go look him up. Look at what he did. He had skulls, an altar. He built an altar. He practically idolized the Emperor from Return of the Jedi. That guy. That was his hero. He didn't like Vader. Vader wasn't evil enough. He's like, I like Vader. Vader's just, kind of like the suit in a kinky way, but I don't really like Vader. But I like that old guy going, and yeah, you're friends. He's melting. I don't know what it is with these the gay sorcerers with the melting and all the face and all that.
Yeah, their skin's always falling off.
It's like this falling off or something. Get the red light therapy. Okay. Stop looking like an English, bulldog. But anyway, that's just my advice. So what do I know? But he says, look, he's like, I did all these bad things. I did this and whether. So these people, they take these little spirit boxes, right? And what they do is it's like that, and it says a word, says a word.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, Jeffrey, where are you at? We're right here. Where you did all these heinous things. Please bless us with your presence, whatever. Why would you want that? But anyway, it makes for good television, right? I was looking at it. I'm watching going like, I wonder what he's going to say.
Better them than me.
Yeah. And I kept thinking, you're going to get followed home by that dude.
But at least I get to watch it.
Yeah. You're going to wake up and your bottom is going to hurt real bad. You're like, I don't know what, but when you go ghost hunting, your butt hurts real bad afterwards. So what ends up happening? But he answers them. And you know what he says? He says, I'm burning. And they said, where are you burning? Are you in hell? And he says, Purgatory. The interesting thing about Jeffrey Dahmer, he accepted Christ. Is that a get out of hell free card? I don't think so. But did he truly believe? Maybe. And would he be able to go to purgatory and pay a penance? Because some people believe that when you go to hell and this NDEs, these near-death experiences that you have, you're going to purgatory, and you're not necessarily, because everybody's is different. Why does everybody's different? Why does everybody's look different? Because it's a state of being. It's based upon you. It's based upon your sin and what you've done. Right? So Dahmer accepts Jesus. This is just a theory. I don't know if this is, postulating here. And then he goes to an intermediate state, but he's being scorched with fire. Now they say God smiths us like silver. He's purifying you. And the reason that is because the God, the Most High, the Father of Christ, you cannot get back to him unless you're purified. Why? Not because he's an evil, mean, bad guy who wants to make you burn and feel pain, but because according to your sin, it has to be burned off of you. Purification is very important because if you go to the Father and you're not cleansed, he can't accept you because he is pure. Another thing you need to be careful for, too, is the light. A lot of people think that the light is the good thing, but wasn't Lucifer the bearer of the light? He was the morning star, right? He was, right? Is that not correct? He was
Yeah.
the son of the morning, right?
Yeah, son of the morning.
Son of the morning. There is a light that comes out of the darkness, and not necessarily good, because he still has the ability to create light. So in essence, he could say, let there be light, and he could make it happen because he knows how. See, he knows how to make fire. He's much like Prometheus. He tells the people, hey, this is how you do these things, and blah, blah, blah. But he also has an interest in giving you information, but in exchange for something. And that's pretty much all of these beings. But they also have an interest in keeping you ignorant, because if you become more intelligent, and like Jesus says, we die for lack of knowledge, then guess what? You become more like them. The worst thing you can do is give your enemies all of the information, because then they have everything that you have, and it's an even playing field. And information is what won World War II. It's what has won most of the wars. Logistics, right? Sabotage, subterfuge. These are the tools of war. This is what wins wars. This is what makes things happen. So if you are so inclined and you're waging war, the one thing you must have is information. And if you're one step ahead of the other guys, well, guess what? You're probably going to win. Right? So you got one guy who's Jesus. He says, I want to give you knowledge. I want you to have it. I want you to educate yourself, because I want you to be like me and ascend to the Father. And he says, and the only way to do that is through me. I'm the only one that can help you. So if you're going and you're seeking esoteric knowledge in other forms, right? In other words, you're consorting with other beings, and you're not doing what Jesus said, which is to test the spirits. And there's ways to do this. And that's not for this show right now, but there is a way to do it. That's most important, because I can tell you right now, I don't think Melindra's grandfather was a bad guy. I think he was on the wrong path. But I don't believe that an angel is going to go to you and tell you to follow Christ, or that tells you, hey, Christ sent me, you need to go here and become a Christian. It's not going to happen. The one thing they always have in common is they want to steer you away from Christ. They'll still steer you toward God, what they claim is God. But Jesus is right out. He's out of the equation completely. They're like, we want you to go to God, but not through Christ. Keep him out away from us. He's like poison. Keep him, go away. So you can cry out, God, God, God all day long, but who is God? Because there's a million of them. But Jesus says, there is but one God. He is my Father, and there is but one way to the Father, and that is through me. And that is the very, very important crux of this, because you can go to a God. These fools in Hollywood, when they stand up and they say, I want to thank God for this bottle of Essentia. Couldn't have done it without you. What? Oh, wait, time out. I just want to walk up, like in a movie or something, and freeze frame. Everybody's like, all of these stupid Hollywood people. Just shut up. Just walk up on stage and then just rewind the person. Tell us who God is to you, Mr. Hollywood celebrity guy who was probably at Epstein's Island. And then they're like, oh, by the way, I want to thank Moloch. Yes, he is my Lord and Savior, and I sacrifice children to Moloch. And you're like, what? Who? What'd you say? No. People in the back. Say it again. Because all I heard you say was God. You didn't say anything about Christ. And they don't say Allah. They don't say any of that. They don't say anything about anything other than they just think they're all thanking God. That's because God to them is not God who to you. God to them is Baphomet. God to them is Moloch. And they're different beings. It just depends on who they worship and who they serve and why they're serving him. Mammon. You know what he does?
Got him greed, money.
He makes you rich. That's who they serve, these other beings Amun. We talked about it last night on the Ape Show, who Amun is. Amun is two different beings. There's Amun and there's Ra. Did you know that those are two different beings in the Egyptian pantheon?
Yeah, you were talking about it last
And
night.
people will argue with you all day, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to call you stupid. No, person, that's two different beings. Those two beings, and they smushed them together. And you know why? Because Osiris died because he was killed by Set, but he was resurrected. But then there was this push that said, no, he could have been resurrected. That doesn't happen. He's dead. And so the cult of Ra was born. But Amun, right? He was the most important, really, because Ra just was like the sun and all that. They're like, we have to make these become one. So they smushed them together, much like the Old Testament. They did these things, even though the Elohim and all these other, different, it's like different things. And they do that in every single religion. But you don't need to worry about all that. All you need to worry about is Christ and what Christ says. And what Christ says is to follow him. So much like Melindra, much like her grandparents, they followed Christ. They left that region because it was hostile to them. That church was eventually burned down, set ablaze by, I'm sure, zealots. But they don't know exactly who, because remember, they forced the Jews in that region to become Islamic. And that is when the real fervor against Christianity began. So was it them or the Muslims? It doesn't really matter, does it? All we know is that Christians were persecuted and killed, because that happens everywhere around the world. And that, my friends, is a big part of the problem. Then a beggar. This poor guy. He just wanted a better life, but he wanted power over those that had mistreated him. So he sought it out. He found it. But he didn't get anything for it, but blown to smithereens. And it's these little imps. They're always there, ready to do the devil's bidding.
Mm-hmm.
Mean, vindictive, and evil. They're not even going to make a deal with you. They're just going to try and smother you, kill you. But the best thing is like, oh, well, you know what? This snake here is a snake that's probably not going to bite you. And this snake here will bite you. And this one here is poison. How about not having any of them in your house?
Yeah.
You thought about that? I don't have time to sit here and look at this. Oh, this is a red digger dogger.
Red the black,
scorpion.
my old friend Jack.
This scorpion will only make your pecker fall off. I don't know if I should take this one here. Now, this one here might make your lips swell up and blow up. You pow, like a woman with too much collagen from Hollywood. Look what happened to me. I'm beautiful now because the scorpion stung me in the lips.
The Greg Valentino of lips.
Valentino's arms just explode. All of that glycerin, look, it's gone. But I don't have time to sit there and adjust my life to figure out which scorpion might be in my shoe. If you're in my shoe, how about you're just going to get old squishy? So my advice to you is every one of these beings that is not of God, they don't need to be there. They don't need to be in your house. Now, if you don't want to kill them and you feel bad for the little guys, then take them and put them outside until they crawl back in. Or you could do what my one friend's wife does and take them for a drive out into the country and then release them. The only problem is she put them all in a jar together and they killed each other.
Who'd have thought?
Who would have thought that black widows and scorpions didn't play well together? Color me surprised. Anyways, folks, you get what I'm saying. That's the point. You can't trust it, right? And testing the spirit really is testing yourself. If you're going to follow God's word with the true God, follow our Father Christ, or if you're going to follow some other guy that just says he's God. Because, well, other people are saying he's God. He wants blood sacrifice. That's not God. It is not. My God never asked for that, never will, never would. That's demonic. Always has been. God says he hasn't changed. He does not change. You know who changes? You know, man. Man changes. You know what they do? They write it and they lie. They change it with their pen. That's how they change it. God is the I am. He's like, I'm always here. It's not this one day I'm this guy and the next day I'm that guy. No, it's people who put these things on him. They make him be what they want him to be. Gil Sanchez, Black Widows, feared throughout the land. And the people I know just squish them. Follow Beto. You know, so that's my point, right? And every day when you wake up, you should probably pray. You know, you don't have to do what I do. You don't have to be like me. Don't. Or do. Do you. But eventually, someday, we all have to grow up and we have to figure out who God is, where God is, what God is. And that goes back to what this question was about purgatory. What is it? What is it? It's a state of being. It's not the place you want to be. It's kind of like waiting outside the principal's office to see if you're going to get in-school suspension or suspended from school or, well, back in my day, corporal punishment, get licks. They call them licks when you got spanked with the paddle. Or you might just go in and get reprimand, and the principal's like, look, don't do it again. Next time you're going to get popped. You understand? Literally. We'll spank you. So it's not really where you want to be, because it's a field of uncertainty. So where you want to be is in the bosom of Christ. That's where you want to be. There's all this other white noise. There's this clutter that's always just that needs to be tuned out. You need to pay attention and focus on what is important, which is Christ. Follow him. That's what I'm telling you. Well, Jake, that's not as simple as that. Jake says this, he is simple as that. It's not simple at all. But what I'm telling you is simple. Follow Christ. Because you can be following God all day long and you're not following God. You're not following the God that Jesus is talking about. You're following a God that has a lot of power, especially when the grand collective has come together and said this is God, and they give it power. That's why you have to cling to Christ like driftwood in the ocean. That's what I'm telling you, and I'll keep telling you until the day I die. These encounters that people have, the stories that they've come on the show, they've told these encounters. These people have had these encounters. They tell them. You can watch other people's shows. They say the same thing. They do the same thing. They always say the same thing. There are very, 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 very few people who have encounters, who cry out to anything other than that, and it works. Go look. There's not very many. People say, well, we're living in a Christian society. No, we're not. We're living in a society that's very hostile to Christianity. There's a guy that goes around asking people if they believe in Jesus, and I don't know how much editing he does. I don't know much about it. I just know that most of the people say no. Mm-hmm. So you got to stick together. Jake says, quoting Christ from Scripture. Well, it isn't as simple as that. I don't remember Jesus saying, it's just real simple. I don't remember that. Tell me what passage that is and actually show me the verse and what translation. Is it the new version of American whatever, the blah, 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 or where is it? Tell me. Where does Jesus say? It's just as simple as that. I don't remember Jesus saying those words. Not being hostile, Jake. I don't remember Jesus saying that, like an infomercial. It's as simple as that. And when did Jesus say that? And I'll stand corrected if I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I don't remember. I don't recall that being the case. I agree with that, Alan. You can find, and I don't think Jake's being smart mouth or anything like that. I think Jake is trying to tell us that just follow God. Yeah. God is all there ever was and all there is and all there ever will be. And he's as simple as that. Okay. I don't think he's saying Jesus said that. I think he's saying that that's what that is. Okay. So I think we follow each other here. So that's it. But if you have any other questions, very quickly, because we got started early, so I mean we have a little bit of time. I mean I got a few minutes if you want to ask another question and let me answer. Don't forget tomorrow is really the day to ask questions because you, the audience, can join us. We're going to do a Patreon show. It's going to start at 7 and then at 8 o'clock. We're going to jump over and do the actual show. We might even start at 6:30 to 7:30 so we can get the regular show started earlier. But you get an extra hour if you're a Patreon member. So join the Patreons, $10, $20, $30, $40, $50 tier. Tomorrow night, we're going to be discussing the tiers and how we're going to restructure it. Kevin says here, Wolf, what are your thoughts on the end time? Very interesting. That will come on Friday the 11th with Jason McLean. We're going to be talking all about that. That's interesting too, Evan. A lot of people say that because Amen could be Amun-Ra, because Amun was the chief god. Now, some people believe that he was the chief god during the time of the Egyptian Exodus, but he actually wasn't the chief god. It was Osiris. But Amun gained power, and what happened was there was a cult movement that pushed Osiris out. Him, Isis, and Horus were out. Amun and Ra were in. They turned him into one god, and they said he is the one all-powerful God, and they equated him to Yahweh, basically saying that he was their version of Yahweh, and that he all was, is, ever was, will be, blah, 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 blah. And it became a cult. And they went through and they systematically changed a lot of the past, the Egyptian past. They changed the history. They took it down. And that happens a lot. That happens a lot in these, when there's a revolution, and there was a revolution, and whenever that happens, you lose a bunch of information because the people in charge say, oh, we got to rewrite history to where this is the way it's always been. And it hasn't always been that way. But what they do, though, to make it look like it's always been that way, you know what they do? The left has done that. I'm not even going to get into a political discussion. If you're on the left, my apologies. I don't want to offend you, but the truth is the truth. With television, which has been a leftist medium tool for a long time, I dare say pro-communism, right? Pro-communism. And they'll be like, well, it's always been this way. Like every country in the world has always been multicultural and matriarchal. No, it hasn't. And no, it wasn't. No. Maybe in some incarnation millions of years ago, because we've been here for billions of years and it's happened over and over and over and over again. But not in this timeline, even though you're trying to change the timelines and do all this matrixy stuff. How's that working out for you? We're all dodging them. We're like, whoa, DI, whoa.
Well, yeah, the ancient Greeks being rampantly homosexual was a myth that started like that too, because like the same guy who said that.
I was gonna say it's largely the invention of one guy.
Yeah. He wrote a book like in the 50s, and that's not taken seriously by any real historian. He didn't cite any sources or anything
Nothing.
like that.
He just says it.
And he said some similar things in that same book about Odin and about Jesus. So
well, and what you do, there's two things people do when they want you to believe in something, right? What they do is they basically bastardize history, and they'll turn it around into whatever narrative they're trying to fit. Either because they want you to think ill of the enemies, right? Or it could be both at the same time. They'll throw two rocks.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a way of normalizing
two birds.
The present day.
Yeah, and then the other thing they'll do is to normalize it so they can normalize it.
Yeah.
So they said this has always been being around kids and touching them and stuff. That's always been that's bull crap. When? Well, there was this culture way back, and it was always that way, and blah 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 blah. And just join up, and you won't be not liking life in no time. Yeah, okay, whatever. It's just perfectly normal. No, it's not. And because some obscure tribe in Wakabugini, whatever, says that they do that, and then, oh, look at that. See, it's always been normal. Look, they've been doing it. All 12 of them. You're not going to convince me that this is a normal behavior. You're never going to convince me of that. You're not going to convince me that throwing yourself on someone and taking advantage of them, whether they're male, female, you're male or female, it doesn't matter, that's okay. That's normal because that's how people have always done it, because cave people did that. I've heard people argue with some pretty stupid things and try to convince me. Now, hear me out, okay? Let me just say this, okay? I'm just saying, let's mutilate our genitals. What? Yeah, I think it would be a way to solidify us all in the same group. We should all just hear me out, okay? We're going to castrate ourselves. Yeah, there was a Roman charioteer that did this a long time ago. It really caught on. You're like, what? Where is this at? Cite your sources. Cite my sources. What are you? What are you, some kind of conspiracy nut? Oh, whatever. I'm gonna go do it. And you're like, you go ahead with that. 6 months later, hey guys, what's going on? Oh, I see your voice has changed. Yeah, the castration thing didn't really work out too well. I'm having a hard time. Can't get a job or be around a Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah, I can see why. Maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we should just be normal. What is normal? Well, there's a debate about it, right? But we can all agree, not that. We could just start with that's not normal. Mutilating yourself that's not normal, right? Can we at least agree on that? Because at one point in time, we couldn't agree on what restroom to use. And there were some guys that I knew that were taking big time advantage of that. They were like, I'm going in the woman's restroom, or what would have been the woman's restroom, and I'm peeing all over the place. And I'm like, wow. I had friends, I'm not even going to throw you under the bus. I had some friends that told me that. They literally told me that. They're like, I'm going to pee all over. I'm going to make every bathroom be like a men's bathroom. Because what was the comedian that said you go into a man's bathroom and it's just wet everywhere you go, it's wet? What was that guy's name? The one that would go, ha. He was always real animated. He was real funny. And he was like getting hit in the face. What was the guy's name? He was a comedian. And they hated him because he did the joke about printing the tree, the Bible.
Oh, Dane Cook.
Dane Cook, yeah. So Dane Cook, he's like, you go into the men's restroom and everything's wet. It's just water. It's you don't know if it's water or pee. It's just everywhere. That's me, my words. But it is true. You go into a woman's bathroom and there might be something, bad or whatever. But I'd much rather be in there than a guy. A guy's bathroom is just, you walk in, you're like, what is this, a cave? Where is this condensation coming? Where is this, the AC? Why is this humid in here? What is wrong? What y'all been doing in here? What is this? You see some gremlin in the corner. Be one of us. Urinate everywhere. Pee in the sink. And you're like, dude, get away from me. What's going on here? Biden, stop. Get away. Hunter? My dad, Joe, does it. Go away. Go back to Ukraine. What's wrong with you? I'm kidding, folks. I'm joking. You know I'm joking, right? They cause a war in Ukraine. You know that, right? Anyway, what I'm saying, though, is that it gets ridiculous. It gets ridiculous. Back in my day, and I say this as an old man, we had songs about it. People would get funky in the bathroom. You ever heard of the great philosopher Humpty Hump? You ever heard of it? He wrote a poem called The Humpty Dance. He said, sometimes I get ridiculous. I eat up all your crackers and your licorice. And then he says, I once got busy in the Burger King bathroom. Only a guy would sing those lyrics. You ever hear a woman come out and go, I got busy in the Burger King bathroom? Like, did you really? Did you really, Aretha? Because if you did, I'm going to look at you way differently now. You're like, yeah, I like her music, but she did admit she got busy in the Burger King bathroom. What were you working there? Were you mop? What were you doing? I'm just asking. I'm curious. You know what Humpty Hump was doing? Humpty Hump said, I know it's big like a pickle. I'm still getting paid, And then he says he's getting something from the ladies. He's in charge. His nose is large. And the poem, right? He was one of the great poets of our time. If you're younger than 30, go look it up. He was an amazing guy. He was on par with Plato. And I don't mean the philosopher. I mean like the squishy stuff. You know what I'm talking about? I'm joking, folks. I'm joking. But seriously, though, I mean, like, in the men's restroom it's always wet. And forget, if there's just a toilet, there's going to be ring around the bottom of the ground there. It's you walk in, you're like, oh man. The first thing I'm thinking too is like, I'm gonna walk out of here and people workers and think I did that. So at least you could do is take some paper towels and throw it down, maybe step on it a little bit, help out a little bit or something, and hopefully throughout the day the urine wears off the bottom of your shoe. But this is what it's like to be a man. And forget sitting down. Because there's no telling how many people done peed on that seat. Because that's what they do. That's just guys. So then they're like, yeah, I think it's a good idea. We should all share a restroom. Yeah. And the guys are like, yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, let's do that. That was about a week here in Austin. The women are all protesting. The women don't need to be subjected to sitting in urine. And I'm like, welcome to our world. Have a seat.
I don't know why they're complaining that they voted for it.
I walk into Torchy's and the woman, this poor girl, she worked there. She came out. She's like, "Oh my gosh!" And I literally, I was just cognizant enough I just had my ticket. I was getting my tacos. It was right there off 620. And I said, "What happened? Pee all over the floor?" She goes, "Yes, yes." And I'm like, "It wasn't me. I just got here and ordered my, I just got here and ordered my 2 tacos." I didn't, whatever. I didn't do it. I was going to. I was just about to do it. I was just going to go for it. But now that you came out upset, I'm going to think, I'll try to hit the mark. Well, bad. But like you said, this is what you wanted. You voted for this equality bullshit. It's not really equality. It's just a con game. And what are those, the tacos? They're really, if you go to Torchy's, which is now nationwide, the guy is selling his house here in Austin for $25 million. So if anybody wants to buy it, just hit him up. It's only $25 million. It's $25 million.
What a steal.
The guy that created Torchy's tacos. What are the ones with the barbecue on them, the brisket?
What are they called? Something trailer, something, or junk something.
Okay.
They got weird names.
Something junk trailer. We don't know the name of it, but it's the one that everybody that likes at our house, but it has like brisket on it. It's really good.
Dog?
No, that's a different one. They used to have one called the Democrat, one called the Republican. That one is called not the Greenwood, something. What is it called? Ask Nellie. She knows. What is it called? The one that has the brisket on there. I was going to say, if you ever go to Torchy's, get that taco, but I can't remember the damn name of it. Look it up. Look at it. Let's see it. So I already started it. So, but that's it, And so if somebody says, "How did we get off topic?" I don't know. You're a woman. You tell me, Mrs. Outspoken. You tell me. All voting and stuff. No, Miss Quotation. What's her name? Miss Outspoken. No, in all seriousness, we weren't really on topic. This is the end of the show. I just said if anybody has any questions, because the show has pretty much been done. That's why I'm doing this now. I'm not doing it in the middle of the show. People always say like, "Oh, he talks about all this," because this is it. We've done the show. You can stick around for the after party, or you can go. Nobody's got a gun to your head, right? Nobody's like, "Hey." And in point of fact,
Crossroads.
The crossroads. I should have known that. We were talking about the crossroads the other night.
The other one I was thinking of was a trailer park.
Trailer park is the hot dog one, right?
Some kind of chicken
sausage or something.
No.
Anyways, I was going to tell you, here in Austin, there are so many people who are against guns that you can actually rob somebody at finger point. You think I'm joking, but I could probably put on a balaclava, and just imagine me with the balaclava. Just imagine, I don't have one here in the studio. I don't have a luchador mask or anything to pretend like I have that. But imagine, just put a bag over you. It doesn't matter. And just go like this. "Give me all your money." And they'll be like, "Excuse me? Don't make me do this. My finger gun will hurt you." And they're like, "Okay." And then be like, "Do you realize I'm 6'4", I'm 350? And what? Now what? And I guarantee you that at least half of the people in the city they're like, guns are scary, they're horrible, and they assault people, and they jump around and they shoot and make noise, and it causes PTSD. And I'm very, very hurt by this. So they're probably going to go, "Okay, I'm sorry. Please don't use your finger gun on me. All right, take my watch. Take my wife. I don't care. Whatever. Do whatever you got to do. In fact, go to my house. I have a sign in the yard that says I believe in science and all kinds of other stuff and not God and stuff that means I don't have a gun." And that's where you go. when the apocalypse happens. So remember, on the 11th, we're going to be telling you how to survive the apocalypse, which will be to go to these people's houses.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Just make a beeline for West Austin.
I'm joking. I'm kidding. I'm joking. Them's jokes, man. Don't be robbing people. That's horrible. That's horrible.
Gotta make sure they're not home.
That's That brother. What's that? What's that Turner is saying on there? Brother, Wait, why you rob people with finger point? My finger point. You know? I'm just saying. Yeah, it was. A giant Ikiak was coming at me. So I came out blasting. My finger point. See, and people don't realize that either. They don't realize what was like back in the long ago, in the before time. Brian Bowden, good friend of mine. He says people will never know what it's like to push your car and pop the clutch and jump in it. Now, I haven't actually done that, but I've been with my friend when he did it, and my friend Gilbert, and we had to push his car, and then I had to jump in. I'm like, hey, wait, I got whoo. And good thing I was fleet-footed. I could always run really fast. I jumped in the car. I'm like, whoo, we got it going. Teamwork. Brought to you by being poor. So I know the before time, and back in the before time, right? For those of you who are still here for the after party, like I call it, we're gonna start calling after the show the after party, right? Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna let you know I was one heck of a dancer. I didn't always showcase my skills because I didn't always have that time on my hands. Where some people are like, oh, let's go to the clubs, go dancing. Well, believe it or not, old Wolf could dance back in the day. And I had some moves, man. I could do some stuff, man. You know, like I'd be like, you know, you'd be shocked. You'd be surprised. In fact, when we were at dinner earlier, Maddie, come here. Maddie, you're still here lingering around. Come here. Jump in the chair real quick, right? Jump in the chair. Come on. Tell them. And don't lie. Tell the truth. Have you not seen me with some moves? I showed you some moves at the restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You can't show it on the camera. But turn yourself. We can't see nothing but a tattoo there. Okay. And you've seen me dance too. You've seen me dance.
Yeah.
Some would call it booty dance, right? I was like showing my moves to some people. And what are you doing? So okay. Nellie's like shocked. No. So I've showed people my moves. Okay. Now in another country, another language, they say, look, show you sexy time. Right? You show the sexy time. But I'm like, no, you don't do that for free. You're going to show the sexy time. I'm going to get dinner. I'm going to get a movie, and you're going to take care of my kids. You're going to get my nails, my hair, and my eyelashes. My eyebrows are going to be done. Or you ain't nothing but a little bitch. You understand me? So I'll give you a little taste of that. I'll be like.
There it is, people. You're seeing it firsthand here.
See? You can't do that. You don't got those moves. You don't got that. You don't got that flow. You know what I'm saying? You know, you can't do what I do. That's your problem. You can't. See, look at this. Look at that. You can't do that. Man, y'all ain't number. You can't do that, man.
Well executed.
Yeah, I'm just saying. There are people that can do it and people that can't. Well, some are with it and, well, some aren't.
Some people got it, some people
That's
don't.
right. They got it. And if you got it, flaunt it. That's what they say. That's what I've done. Man's got to make a living somehow. Come check me out at the strip club. You know what I'm doing on Thursdays? I'm not here in the studio because I'm over there on the pole.
Oh, God.
Booty so low like an insect stripper pole. Yeah, right. You know that's not me. You know I'm not doing that.
No, that's the horror story.
But they will do is the manager will come out and he'll be like, excuse me, we're going to pay you $1,000 if you would please leave our club. I'm like, oh, really? Really? That's all I'm worth to you?
They'll say, "Sir, this is a Whataburger. Please leave."
And you're really just on mushrooms, and you're in there all, and people over there like, and then some of them are kind of entertained. They're like eating their fries, like, well, I don't know, it's kind of.
Homeless person in the corners dancing.
The other guys over there like, I'm getting down with this guy. I was watching Rick and Morty on my wrist, but now I'm looking at this guy. Oh, this is amazing. Blowing my mind. There. Well, he gets up, he starts crunking with you. You know, you're like, damn, this dude just got some moves. And then you realize, like you said, you're in the Whataburger bathroom, you know, and you're tripping out. You're like, oh, whew, that acid really got to me. It's hot. You listen to that song, it's getting hot in here. So take off all your clothes. Why is that what they go to? They don't have an air condition. They can't lift up a window. You just immediately start taking off your clothes because you're hot. Can you imagine going into like a Dick's Sporting Goods? How appropriate. You go into a Dick's Sporting Goods and you're just like, I was checking out the softball bats and it's hot as hell. And let me take off my clothes. And they're like, excuse me, sir, what are you doing? Hey, it's getting hot in here. Take your clothes off. Come on now. Pants, everything. Let's go. Flip-flops. Take off all their clothes. They're like, well, we could turn up the AC. No, don't do that. I'm good now. I'm in my chonies. I'm down to the canoeing section. I'm going down the Nile. Is that Sobek? What is he doing here? It's just nuts. Wow. Anyway, I'm being jokey. I'm joking. Yes. This is not a legitimate homework assignment. Don't go look this up. You know, the best part is the people that don't like me are like, we got lots of material now. We're gonna get this guy. The boys come. Wait till we see it. Everybody needs to see. Everybody in the club getting busy. The roaches are jamming. Everybody's jamming. He's malfunctioning. I knew he was part of the CIA mind control project. But it's just, you know, we're having fun, right? We jokey, we kid, we joke, we blow, right? Anyway, I'm joking. We're just having fun, folks. It's just, you got to release. You got to have fun. You can't just always be like, look, it was some... Because people that do that, they have problems. It's called meth. They're like, oh, look at him up and down. He must have a mental problem. He's just like me. I'm going to go throw ABCs now. Let me go. Talk about Abe. I got it's crazy. I get old ABC, some of that. I'm gonna get this guy. I'm gonna get him. Put my glasses on, Mama. Go give me some goat's milk. I'm gonna do this. That's exactly what they look like. It's gotta be a little bit off to the side because you're not paying attention to what the hell you're doing. You're like, Josh Turner's so fat. He was in the circus. No, you know.
Got to make sure you have a whole liter of Dr. Pepper handy.
He's going to hate life. He's going to unalive himself today. This is the day it's going to happen. I believe. You're like, no, it's not. And you'll see me tomorrow. To your chagrin. You'll see me tomorrow. I'll be on there and we'll be talking like we always do on Monday. And we'll do the Patreon show, and then we'll do this show, and we'll have fun. We'll do what we always do. And we're going to have a big bunch of people who are going to try to come in and tell their stories because I don't know how to use AI. Tell you the truth. It's God looking down on me. I don't know really how to do it. So I don't have that ability. And thank goodness, because I don't need it. God gave me a brain. And I use it. He gave me some pretty hot moves too. But anyway, I just, you know, and Anthony does this, the pics, what are they called? The thumbnails or whatever?
Yeah.
That's AI. Some of that.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes. That's the only AI we use. We don't do AI. And we don't buy our subs. We don't buy likes or views or comments. And these are all things that these people can do. And some of these names are like Jacqueline 6934. What is this? C3PO, whatever, R2D4. These aren't real people. Come on, where is this bot farm at? Me love Mike Show, happy time, fun, good time. No, come on, really? Best time, fun, everyone, love. Super. I've seen those, and then I see them take them off. I'm like, oh, damn it. Bot farm. Come on, Duke boys, this sucks. Well, you could do it legitimately, and you might be able to get somebody that actually says something correct. A Madden? John Madden? Who said that?
Oh, Cammy.
Who's Cammy?
They've been here.
Cammy, you want me to do what now? You want to do a John Madden? Well, if you do, let me know, because I didn't see where you said that. I could do it. I could do it for you. I'll do it. It's 450 people here still.
Either or. Whatever he says.
And Trip says, I'm huffing to breathe. What are you huffing? Stop with that.
Oh, too late. I already.
Everybody knows that the paint thinner is, I'm joking. Don't do it. Yeah, do not taunt Happy Fun Ball. Exactly, D. You don't know what might happen. It might blow. It might blow you hard. It will blow you hard, breakneck, and kill. You got to explain to some of these people. I actually had a guy who was yelling at me one time at the club. They thought he was Uzbeki. Uzbekistan, and he wasn't yelling at me. He was actually yelling at Chico. Chico's this tall, big guy. He's like an ex-luchador wrestler. He's a big guy. This dude's like, you don't know American kill you. I blow you hard. And we just all died laughing, and he couldn't figure out why we were laughing. So he started throwing punches and kicks in the air. He didn't attack anybody. He did hurt himself, though, by falling down. And Squid is, he's sitting over there like, this guy does not know English. So we actually, my brother, this is a true story. He stood there. There was this tree right there. My brother was on the phone, and he's just like, dude, chill out, man. I'm on the phone. Probably lying to some girl. But he's over there like, yeah, for sure. Oh, I do. I own Dubai. Yeah, for sure. I do. I built that place. Yeah, it was me. Yeah, it's my idea. I made it snow over there. Yeah. Salt water, no problem. Milkshakes for everybody. And he's like, can you shut up? Next thing you know, he's teaching this guy how to say it in English. Then the guy goes up and goes, I F all of you.
Oh my.
And I was like, what? That's not better, dude. You're getting a little better, but it's not much.
Still a ways to go.
I do it to all of you. Hard. Blow you all. Like, man. So anyway, somebody wanted a Madden impersonation, and I don't see anybody asking for it, though. Where?
Okami, the Okami.
Okami. Okay, he says he went Tyson. You can never go for Tyson. Never go for Tyson all the way. It's sometimes it's like an animal. The animal comes at me. I'm just like, you know what, Robin? You're being a bitch right now. I'm totally tired of your shit. You want to talk like me, bitch? I'll smack your bitch up. Crystal Method, I'll smack you like Crystal Method. Then Tommy Hearn shows up. Yeah, Mike, do it. Just smack that bitch and smack her hard. He's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to smack her hard. You don't need to tell me twice. Once, twice, 3 times I made it. Mm-hmm. I said I was going to do it. Go up to the up floor with the woman, and she said, we're going to play Monopoly. I'm like, I'm not here for that. I'm not playing with that. I'm finna do 5 years for that bullshit. Then I'm going to get paid to get beat up by Jake Paul. Tyson on mushrooms. Like, I see all the beautiful colors. I see trees of green. For some reason, red clover too. I don't know why I'm seeing that. And now I look and I see you. I think to myself, what a beautiful world. And then you got Tyson is just going crazy. He's like, boom, and then he comes out in the Tigers and he's fighting the Tiger. And he's like, look, I'm going to blow you, Tiger. And the Tiger jumps back and he's like, oh my gosh. And we're circling the sweaty asses on there. Thanks for showing up here. And then you got Pat Summerall. This is Pat Summerall. Why am I drunk and why is my co-host yelling? Troy Aikman back to pass. Boom! He got hit. Oh my gosh. I bet he wishes Haley still played for them. But he doesn't. And back to the Niners. Anyways, that's it, folks. Thank you for tuning in. We had a great time. We always do. Like I said, this is like the after party. We're just hanging out. I'm just hanging out. I'm out in my suit of armor. Do you not see the Iron Man suit? It's not on me. I took it off. Okay. Somebody said this could be a show on its own. It could be. It could be, but you got to make that happen, folks. You got to make that happen. You know how that's going to happen? I'm going to go to this place right across the highway. I'm not joking. This is a true story. We are going to go over there because if you, for $1, I'm not joking, for $1, you can get this card. It's called Pinballs. It's a place called Pinballs. And they have these little rubber duckies inside of the, am I joking? Inside of this claw thing. It picks them up. And you keep playing until you win. They make sure that you get one of these rubber duckies because they're so cheap. Get this. I talked to his name is Martin. I talked to the manager over there. His name is Martin. I said, Martin, how much do these cost? He said, when we get them in crates of 500. He's like, and it costs about $30. So I made friends with him. I said, dude, why don't you just sell me 500 of those for $30 or $39? I'm sorry. And then I will take those and I will tape little pieces of cardboard to their little sides, and I'm going to sell them for $50. Because I have all original thoughts. I don't copy people.
That's genius.
Okay, that's a genius marketing idea. I found these ducks by a haunted bridge where I heard a cow going, caw, caw, caw.
But were they covered in roach shit?
They were not. They were not. Stop
that's
making up that awful rumor.
Because if they're not covered in roach shit, I'm not buying.
This is where we're at, folks. We're going to do this. It's gonna catch on. It's gonna be a real sleek look. You're gonna like it. It's gonna be cool. I'm telling you. People have no idea how much money we're gonna make. I just gave it all away. Holy crap! The shrooms did
Dang
this.
it!
Damn it! I can't do
Cat's
it.
out of the bag now.
I
folks.
can't con these people now because I've told them what I'm gonna do.
Now they're gonna go steal your idea on that other channel, start selling shit-stained rubber duckies.
Cow Walker. Look at that. Cow Walker. He's a cow walker. He's out there just. You're like, what was that, folks? Did you hear that?
Something's out here, guys.
There's something there. I heard it. Could be that ferocious cow walker. We've been hunting him for days. Right outside my front porch for some reason.
Boots in the backyard.
Boots on the yard. Boots on the yard. Booties on the yard, folks. Booties. Anyways, this is the comedy hour. I'm having fun, right? We're just funning, right? Right? The cow whisperer. There you go. Dick's giving away my recipes. Now that was a secret I told on Abe's show last night. I'm not here to give away my recipes.
Family recipe.
The secret's in the sauce. I'm gonna call up Scorpion. Scorpion, tell them what they won. All right. Tell him what you see. He's like, I'm on acid. Crazy looking police staring at me. Scorpion's out there like Martin, like, oh, come. Oh, jumping on my car in the hood. Hey, what are you doing here? What's going on here? Oh, the shrooms you came here as a kicking. It kicked in. Woo! I just robbed 2 people with my finger gun. Woo! Woo! You're like, damn, them shrooms are hard. Good thing we had the cow walker out there that we stalked to find the shrooms. Because I think that's what's going on. I think what they're doing is they're actually using the cow walker. They're finding the shrooms. Takes a poop. Next couple days, there it is. Special type of shroom makes you go crazy.
That would explain some of the rants in that group.
Yeah.
Please do Mike Tyson on shrooms telling a spooky story.
Tyson telling a spooky story on
shrooms.
How would you do that? How would you do Tyson on shrooms doing a spooky
That's a
story?
tough one.
That's
Okay, I got it. Okay, here we go. Let me get ready. Okay, folks, it was a dark and stormy night. I was looking in the mirror at my face tattoo, and I was thinking, what the hell did I do to myself? And then I heard, moo, moo. I was like, what the hell was that? What the hell was that? I was just in here to take a shit. I'm scared now. I'm so scared. I look out the window, and I see this crazy looking thing. It looks like a cow. I'm so scared. And he's doing what I wanted to do in the toilet, but now I'm so scared. I didn't do it. I laid on the floor and went to sleep. Then they shake me and they're like, Mike, I wake up. I'm flailing around. I'm in a disco in New York City. I don't even know what the hell I was thinking. And I shit my pants. The kid, he's trying to drug me out, kicking and screaming. And I was like, the cow whisper. I heard it. I saw it. The cow whisper is real. Then I called up my friend Wolf. I said, you need to find rubber duckies now and sell them, bitches. Sell them hoes now. Have it your way. We had a 3-way call. I was Dre on there too. I was like, what do you think, Dre? He says, have it your way. I said, okay, Dre, whatever. Eminem was like, do it the moment, the moo, the cow, the ducky. 50. Me and Mike were like, we were jamming, you know, got my headphones on. I'm like, then Dave Chappelle showed up and with the Flash, and we all got in a spaceship and we flew off to Zeta Reticuli and got really high. And now here we are. Life has never been quite the same. It's just ho hum since that night. No party like a Diddy party though, right? We found out he was on the ship and he's like, yo, what's up? We just kicked him out. See ya. Lil Wayne's like, yeah, you gotta go, Diddy. Young Monday. What's that dude with Baby with all the stuff on his face, all that shit on his face? Yeah, we done threw Diddy off the plane, bro. With no parachute. That motherfucker, he just floating, dog. So Weezy's gonna live. All right, man.
Oh my god.
Drake's in the corner, got no shame, wearing all my chains every time I'm kissing Wayne. Hanging with Master Payne. All right, guys. We had a blast. We had fun. It's always fun here at PRT, right? We have a good time, right? We have fun. We blow, right? Boom. Big blow. Big boom. We have a good time. We have a good time, man. So be careful. Watch out for that cow whisperer. Unfortunately, though, we will never get a picture of him. Never. Because he's imaginary and he lives in someone's head up in Oklahoma. That man's in a padded cell. Rubber ducky, you're the one. You make bad times so much fun. Yeah, that's what happens. You're not supposed to snort the cow poop, stupid. Me gold is underneath. That's where it's at. You moron. You goofy little Mick something or another. They're like, Mr. McP, you're not supposed to do it that way. Little leprechaun. Anyways, guys, we had a great time, man. Tune in next time we'll be on, which is tomorrow night. Tomorrow night we'll be here. We're going to do the Patreon probably 6:30, it's 7. Let's say 7. And until 8 and then 8 o'clock, and then we'll do the show. People call in. I won't be this goofy. This is the after party. You know that. But we had a good time. Rita says, she's the normal one. She's like, have a good week, everyone. After this, I don't know. Thanks, Rita. She's like, Jennifer says, I love you. Rita, I do too. Rita's awesome. Awesome. Thank you, everyone that tuned in. So let me kick this thing off here. We had fun.